Welcome to Open Tables. With your hosts, Cynthia Sue Larson.
That it's okay for everybody to change. It's okay to let things go. And that's really powerful.
Christopher Anatra.
The universe is based on commerce. You know me as the quantum businessman.
Jerry Hicks.
I feel like I've woken up in a parallel dimension where everybody's exactly the same. They look the same memories generally speaking, but they're different.
And Shane Robinson.
Nobody has all the answers, so everybody's welcome to share their ideas, and it really expands our consciousness when we do that.
Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Imec Open Tables. It is Wednesday, May the 24th, 2023. Do you know where your Mandela Effect is? Sorry, poor joke. I had to use it. I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. This is the International Mandela Effect Conference, so we've got a lot to go over today, folks. Huge episode. I can't wait to get this thing started. But before we get started, we have to go into the legalities of things. This is called Decoding Mandela Effects, ladies and gentlemen. Decoding we will be doing. One of my favorite topics, of course, in the theories. Go ahead to the disclaimer, please. There we go. The content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regard to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. All right, with that said, it's time for me to bring in my incredible team. I don't do this alone. Could never do this alone, ladies and gentlemen. First up on the list, we have Miss Cynthia Sue Larson of RealityShifters.com. Thanks for being here with us, Cynthia.
So glad to be here.
Next up, we have Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. How we doing today, Shane?
Wonderful. Glad to be here.
That's what I like to hear. And last but not least, we have Mr. Christopher Anatra. You know him as the quantum businessman. How you doing today, Chris?
Woo! Does that explain it? Woohoo! Yes.
Woohoo!
Oh, absolutely. Decoding.
This is gonna be such a fun show. Decoding the Mandela Effects. This is gonna be so fun. I love message theory. This is a theory I've always found a lot of interest in, fun, excitement in. So that's basically what we'll be talking about today. Message theory. Are there messages in the Mandela Effects? Is there meanings behind them? Do they have something special to say? We're going to discuss that today. Oops, I rhymed. Didn't even mean to that time. Can we go ahead and hit the show agenda real quick? Roll through this. We've got a lot to cover, like I said. Labor Day weekend 2023 Mandela Effect Conference coming up, ladies and gentlemen. That I cannot wait for. We've got something to say about that here coming up. Then we're going to bring in this episode's very special unannounced guest. That's right. We did not announce we had a guest this time. A very special surprise to discuss the decode of the Mandela Effects. Then we'll go through this month's sponsors real quick, as followed by the Imec board member updates. Then we will discuss female lions growing a mane. Do what? That doesn't sound right to me. How about the Matthew 18:20 Mandela Effect? If you don't know what that particular effect is, stick around and find out. Another spelling change Mandela Effect. This one, folks, this one's going to blow your mind. It blew mine. This one really, I found it, honestly, blows my mind. I cannot wait to present this one to you guys. Followed by the May 25th, 1865 explosion in Mobile, Alabama. Then Saturn's 83 moons, now up to 145. Are you serious? Sudden, surprising finds in science keep happening, don't they? Aurora, Blobs, Mandela Effect. What are Aurora Blobs? I cannot wait to find this out. Not only what are they, have they changed or are they new? What is the Mandela Effect here, folks? Sunrise rockets around the, I'm sorry, I missed one. Sunrise more to south and sunset more to north. Wait, what? You might want to stick around if you're confused about that, folks. I know I can't wait to get to that part myself because I'm a little confused. It reminds me of something that happened to me a couple years ago. Smoke rockets around atomic bomb detonations. What are smoke rockets? Smoke can turn into a rocket. We got to figure this out. Followed by rabbits and foxes can climb trees. You heard that right. Your ears did not deceive you. This is really, really weird Mandela world stuff here, folks. Then we have Emmy chatbot time, followed by our mailbag, and last but not least, the Q&A. Remember, you can put your questions in the chat as we go along, and we will be collecting them. And we will go over them in the Q&A at the end of the session. So you do not have to wait to the end of the show to drop your questions in. If you have a question, let us know. And if we don't get to it in the moment, we will hit it on the Q&A. Also, do not forget, ladies and gentlemen, International Mandela Effect Conference is a 501c3. That means we are a charitable organization. We work for you and because of you. If you would like to donate to the organization and to the conferences and everything we have going on here, feel free to hit that super chat button over there on. And also, that means that when you do donate to us, it is a tax write-off. That's right. It is tax deductible, a charitable donation. So feel free to donate as much as you'd like because you can deduct it from your taxes later on. It's a great thing. But seriously, use the super chat button over there on YouTube. We really appreciate you. Also, join us over on our Patreon. You can become a Patreon member and get very special content that we put out over there. Green room content before the show that only Patreon members get to see. So it's something you might want to go over there and check out if you're interested in our conversations that happen before the show. And I promise you, they're much more than just about the Mandela effect. We talk about quite a bit. And we've got another one that will be posted very, very soon. So do make sure that you come on over there and become a Patreon member. And I want to go ahead and welcome everybody in the YouTube chat we do have here. Brian Stavely IC says, hey, Jerry, good to see you, brother. Good to see you, Brian Stavely. Nachiketa, Andy Schwang, Sally Jupe, just to name a few, Rocky the Flying Squirrel, and Gainer. So glad to see everybody. If I missed you, I apologize. I'm really in a bit of a hurry as we have a lot to go through in today's show and a little time to get there. So with that said, we should probably get started on our next slide as we've been planning the third annual, that's right, you heard that right, third annual International Mandela Effect Conference coming up September 2nd to the 4th, 2023, Connecticut in the USA, ladies and gentlemen. So this is going to be in Branford, Connecticut. We do encourage anybody from around the world, please. We would love to have you there in person. This will be the first in-person conference since 2019. So absolutely incredible chance to come, maybe see some of your favorite speakers, maybe enjoy a nice vacation, a time out, so much to do. Enjoy the company of everybody else who's there and Mandela affected, and come and have just a very magical experience with us. September 2nd to the 4th, 2023 in Branford, Connecticut. Team, anything you guys would like to add to this real quick?
Oh, we'd love to see you there. There's nothing like it. It's magical, and it's just so amazing to be in the presence of people who also are experiencing this firsthand, and to get to talk with the speakers in person. It's just irreplaceable experience. Life-changing, magical, wonderful.
Speaking of speakers, if you are interested in being a speaker, next slide, please. There we go. Our theme this year is Decoding the Matrix. What is real? How do we define real? What does it mean when our reality is shifting in seemingly impossible ways? Then what does real mean at all? We are looking for accomplished speakers to present in person or virtually on the Mandela Effect and our related theme for the year. Applications are due by June 15th. This is a typo on the screen. This is not a Mandela Effect. This is a typo on the screen. This is due by June 15th. I did say that right. And selections will be made in July, not June. So everything has been moved up 1 month. If you would like to be a speaker, go ahead and hit your QR code right there with your phone right now. It'll take you straight to the application process. You can apply to be a speaker. We would love to have you there as a speaker. We would love to see all the great things that everybody has to say that would love to present at this conference. So please, I encourage you, apply to be a speaker. Even if it's out of your comfort zone, that's an even better reason to do it. As we have had a number of people go out of their comfort zone and do things within this group and have really, really enjoyed it. Shane, you actually stepped out of your comfort zone to do this in 19, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and it was fun. And even if you don't want to be a speaker, you'll have plenty of opportunities to have your voice heard because we have Q&As after each of the speakers, so you can interact. And it's really a great time for everybody to have their voice heard, whether you're a speaker or not. So I want to encourage everybody to come out and join us and enjoy that magical energy.
Yeah,
absolutely. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I wanted to mention too that this conference is going to be really special because, I mean, on so many different levels, just all of us getting together and so forth, it's going to create a special electricity in the air, so to speak. But I feel like when I tune into it for the future, that we are going to be jumping timelines. And I could see like a lot of us will be jumping a minimum of 100 timelines. So when you're here in Branford, Connecticut, what I would do is be very observant of the things that are going on around you, like where people are, different things that happen throughout the day, and see if they're on repeat or they change or something else happens. Or when you go back home, there's something different in your neighborhood, like all these personal Mandela effects at the very least. So this is going to be a very, very special conference where if you can make it, you're going to get so many rewards, both seen and unseen. So I just wanted to mention it's going to be really special. So give it some careful thought. It's on Labor Day weekend. And it's probably going to start when? I think on 5 o'clock on the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, most likely. Most of the day Sunday, and then maybe part of the day on Monday. But we'll get the schedule worked out soon.
We are looking towards evening meetings. Is that correct?
We're looking into it. Yes. So
yes.
At least
for those that have been talking to me and requesting that, I've had a couple people actually specifically request that I bring that up. So yeah, definitely we are looking into the evening meetings for those that have made that request to me. You guys know who you are out there. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very special guest with us, a person that was actually also at the 2019 conference. We all had the pleasure of getting to meet, talk to, and know on a very personal level, on a very great level. This person is the founder of the Psionic League and Silver Cord Spiritual Science. He, there you go, there's a hint, is a spiritual healer who aids others in holistic healing and spiritual growth. He's a problem solver and a spiritual conduit for teaching others about multi-dimensional awareness and interaction with their individual DNA technologies. Oh, this is going to be a fun episode, ladies and gentlemen. Higher functions and operation systems within anyone's souls, sparks, or shards of their multi-dimensional self to help them manifest in the physical. His abilities include past life reading, DNA reading, past life regression, Akashic record reading, licensed massage therapy, pain release, trigger point therapy, myofascia release, chakra balancing, Reiki master healing, entity removal, and much, much more. It is my honor and pleasure as the host of this episode to bring on the one, the only, the incredible Sean Bond. Welcome, sir, to the program. Glad to have you here.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been lovely seeing you guys grow and expand and unite the community and bring this out to the world and make it known that this isn't just how we know it as, and it's not mundane and just breaks apart and shatters the matrix. It's so wonderful to be a part of it. You all, and as well in the chat, lovely see some lovely names that I know, so thank you for coming.
I'd like to actually, since we just got done talking about the conference, get Sean's perspective of what was your impression of Ketchum when we all first got to meet each other?
Yeah, this is coming back, right? Huge effect. Oh man. So Okay, so I'll break it. So what I remember, breaking down Soul Family Reunion, which will expand more, a big effect on the timeline, breaking a whole bunch of control systems on humanity, especially with like a locomotion effect with the audience, and then sharing that. A big effect in the area. It was kind of interesting reading into what was in the area there, in the history, and hearing about it from like Jerry, and some cool things with the mountains and underground. Anyway, and that was getting affected, and then this big increase in how many Mandela effects were happening in positive to the world, and it was sharing links and like how Chris will say Easter eggs that expand consciousness. When you observe a lot of Mandela effects, you get upgraded. You get the crack in the universe. You see this cause and effect. You get to interact with the effector, the cause of it, in the authority to bring it forth, and you even get trained into being able to amplify doing it yourself. And recommend doing it in a healing way that starts with you and then goes outward in timeline choice points being changed and habit patterns and things that would lock the future certain layer, and then it expands that, and then it allowed Earth to grow even more in her garden of things she's creating that will then eventually merge in, and then have multiple gardeners, more so than there were there before. So it's like you're training people to be able to Mandela affect the world to be better. So there's a lot.
Yeah.
How good can it get, right?
Yeah, and lots of higher self trading, because there's a whole other level where, you know, the being, we call them our higher self, our divine self, dreaming this dream, trading with others for abilities. The universe is based on commerce, you know, that kind of a concept. So all growing and amplifying our abilities. So many reasons to get together in person.
And do you have any estimates on how much more people will be in this next one, do you think?
We don't know yet.
Well, I can tell you that we have space that is limited. So you do want to make sure that you hurry up and get your ticket now, because we will run out. There is a limited amount of seats. So you do want to make sure you get in as early as possible. And once they're gone, they're gone. So once they're sold out, there's no way to get any more tickets to this event. So make sure you get yours today. We have a link in the YouTube chat. It is an Eventbrite page. I believe we also should have that posted at our website, imec.world, imec.world. If it isn't, then I will make sure that it does get posted over there pretty soon. And we also have it should be in the description box down below. So do make sure that you check that out. Once again, very limited number of seats. So get yours today.
Yeah, there's a lot of people within driving distance of this. So with it being up in the Northeast, that's a really highly densely populated area. So
yeah.
Right. No link in the YouTube show notes. Well, we will get that fixed as soon as possible, Mr. Stavely. I appreciate you letting us know that.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
We're going to need a bigger boat. Well, let's hope that boat doesn't fill with dragonflies, as we have that up as our first sponsor today, ladies and gentlemen, the Golden Dragonfly of Boca Raton, Florida. This photo was taken in Boca Raton. This is a real photo, to the best of our knowledge, taken by a person and sent to us by Sylvia Bondurant. So thank you, Sylvia. It is said the dragonflies are the guardians of the dream world. So like I said before, I love message theory. I'm just not really good at reading them. I don't have that gift. However, we have a couple of people here with us today who do have that gift. Of course, we know Chris is well known for reading the messages that we encounter in each week's episode. We've also got Mr. Sean Bond here. So just a real quick overview about this. The Guardians of the Dream World. What is this about?
Yeah, so I'll start. I'll let Sean jump in. But basically, what is a dream world? Are we dreaming right now? So there's that whole concept of what reality is, like decoding the matrix, decoding Mandela effects. And if there is a dream world, are there guardians of it that are protectors? So anytime I think all of us, anytime we see something gold in the reality, that starts to give us the idea that we're ascending to the golden timeline. Not that we're necessarily on it yet, but we're on the path to it. It's almost like when you look at a picture of the neurons of a human brain and how they spray out and so forth. We're finding the right timeline to get to that level. So again, another bit of evidence that we're leaving behind the age of chaos and getting more firmly onto the path of the golden timeline. So Sean, do you tune into anything with this one?
Yes. So like I have a lot of experience with dragonflies. I'm sure people will relate. I've actually seen a golden dragonfly in my backyard. They're I don't know what their expanse of like territory is, but yeah, I haven't seen them that often though. So it's definitely rare. With what I read into it, so it definitely amplifies dreams. They do a bunch of grid work for the land. They're also amplified in magic. Bring forth that. I used to have a bunch that would show up to me when I was starting training in telepathy. Humans aren't that good at telepathy, and there's a lot of blocks. There are a lot of things hinging on stopping us from manifesting superhuman abilities like telepathy. But you can train it, and there are beings that are really good at it, and they'll send you messages, and they'll use sometimes certain insects or other types of animals as a remote viewing technology anchored off of an animal that they send you as an animal medicine. And I would have a lot of insects show up to me and just like land on me. I'm like, oh, is there a message in this? And I'm like, yeah. And then I tune into it, and it's like, oh, it's someone relating to the animal or just somebody that's influencing them. And I'd like send them off, and then I'd have dragonflies like land on me over and over again, and the same one, and then I'd send it off with another message, and then it'd come back. Sometimes the being that's communicating, we send a different message. Sometimes they're communicating in that influence. I also had a bunch appear in like a big swarm. That was interesting. I was tuning into that, and it was around a big portal that was like oriented towards magic.
Let me ask you, Sean, if I may, does the golden color specifically have a deeper meaning to it?
Yep. Super powered magic. So it's way more overpowered in magic tech than the others. And there's also a thing that why they call dragonflies too. So there's like links to that with the insectoid remote viewing technology. It helps amplify gridding, portals in different areas, places of power, and hunts down like some insects are hijacked by the dark forces, like and used as spies. So some of them that have a more anchored and powerful soul will be influenced to hunt down dark spies or dark spy flies, whatever you want to call that. Also used in monitoring, healing the land, and has a property radius instead of like an encompassment of a few feet around it, like a normal dragonfly in their auric field effective programming. So entire property. So yeah.
Gotcha. So it's a healing portal stabilizer then.
Yeah, and
like to me,
it's got super powered magic, though I recommend not like disrespecting them.
Well, it would have to be superpowered to stabilize a portal. That's about all that can stabilize a portal is superpower or overpowered magic. So moving on to our next sponsor here, we have the purple crowned fairy wren. So I know it takes your eyes a moment to adjust, ladies and gentlemen. It took my eyes to a moment. Those are not flowers. Those are the top of the heads of birds you're looking at on top there. And the bottom, of course, is the straight on look. Found in northern Australia, the species name is derived from the Latin word corona. No, not that corona. Meaning crown, owing to the distinctive purple circle of crown feathers sported by breeding males, fairy or fae folk as some are known. Perhaps has appeared in our reality to remind us of our crown chakra, the violet chakra. Is that really the violet chakra? The crown?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that is.
Wow. Now that is awesome. I apologize, a little rusty on the color scheme of the chakras, but the fact that that showed up on top, wow, that's amazing. And physical brain are going through upgrades to balance the crown chakra and physical brain. Let me carry that sentence there. Are going through upgrades to balance our hemispheres and ultimately connect our brains to our hearts. Oh, wow. The blue tail feather may also remind us that our throat chakra, blue, is coming online. So we remember to always speak our truth. And we've seen that quite a bit in many episodes here. I know Chris has brought that up a number of times as it relates to the throat and to the speaking. So Chris and Sean, what messages shall the Mandela effect be giving us in this purple crowned fairy wren?
Yeah, so first I wanted to say that this was brought to my attention. There's a Facebook group called Mandela Residue Hunters, and this was posted on their group by the administrator there. Her name is Teresa, and I would say like that group they're like Mandela effect magnets over there. So I would encourage people. It's a private group, but I encourage people to go over there and sign up and participate, and you can share your Mandela effects there, and people will respond back if it's new for them as well. So this popped up in their group, and as soon as I saw this, I knew this was important, especially if some of us have been experiencing like weird headaches over the last week or two. I know for myself, I hardly ever get headache. My whole life, I've never hardly gotten headaches, but lately I've been getting these strange headaches. And what could that be? Could it be like our bodies, our avatars going through upgrades?
Now, let me ask you really quick, and I hate to jump in on you. I want to ask a very specific question about the headache. Where does it usually start? In what hemisphere of the head, I should say? What section does it usually start in? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So actually, I feel a headache right now. But it's like on either.
Well, that's my voice. So
No. It's on either side of my head. Sometimes I feel the pressure like around where my third eye area is, but it's usually somewhere around here. Some people are getting reports of like migraines. They haven't had migraines in a long time. All of a sudden they're getting migraines.
Mine have been coming from the backside. That's why I was wondering.
Okay. Yeah. So that's your head. That's your crown. So yes, all part of it. So so everything that's in this slide is basically like what I would agree with, especially the colors and how it's related to our bodies and how our bodies are changing. We know we've been I'll call it pushed into new upgraded avatars over the years with all the body changes that we've received, which to me, the way I tune into them, they're all positive. Like there's no negative body changes that I'm aware of. So things just keep upgrading for us. So I'll end it there. I'll let Sean chime in with any insights he has on this one.
Okay, Sean, purple crowned fairy wren. We've got a violet crown chakra and a blue throat chakra here together. Aside from that, what do you read on this?
Yeah, right on with that. Sometimes colors won't exactly apply to that, but yeah, in this case, I'd agree. Mostly with the throat, and then a little bit with the third eye that I'm allowed to talk about, and then a big thing with the third eye that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Ooh, we want to know what you're not allowed to talk about.
Right.
Well, yeah, let me just break rules.
Yeah, no, don't break any rules.
Yeah, well, I can, but I'll probably.
Yeah, universe doesn't like when we break the rules. I can validate that.
You can break rules against the system of oppression that stole authority, and feel free to do that and rebel all you want. But yeah, if they're meant to be rules. So it's got. So I'll go into the blue. So it amplifies in light language. So like it has a song line connected to its lineage and information carried through that and light codes. With every time it chirps, and that like emits through the area and programs. It amplifies fortressing in the area and healing of pain. And its instruments, and like compare and contrast between regular birds, there'll be usually a difference in different birds. 3 times more charge it accumulates before it outputs in its vocal instrument. In the third eye tech that I'm allowed to say, if you ever get a feather from one, that'd be impressive. It can amplify remote viewing abilities. People go into collecting things from nature and using those in magic. It also has a warg potential. If you've ever seen Game of Thrones, the concept of being able to connect and see through the eyes of an animal. The big thing, I'm not allowed to say, but it is third eye related. So if you're like alone and you're able to, I'm not allowed to say things.
So let me steer you away from the bad stuff you're not supposed to say. Then, would this have to do with Mother Earth having an upgrade to the chakra or healing the chakra? Or would this have to do with us as the bugs of the planet, if you will?
Oh man.
By the way, Sean, before you answer that, your sound on your microphone sounds a little tinny. Sometimes it's good, but then it gets all tinny. So,
Hello, how's it now?
Better.
A little better.
Yeah.
It has to do with a large macrocosmic presence viewing through the bird, and then that's all I'm gonna say.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that, as we've got to go ahead and move our next slide. We got a lot of information to cover today, folks, and like I said, a little time to get there. The strand wolf. This is a poser. This is a poser. I like wolves. This is not a wolf. This is actually a brown hyena, ladies and gentlemen, called the strand wolf. Is a species of hyena found throughout Africa. It ain't a wolf. I should name it a wolf. It don't even look, well, maybe sort of. It's currently the rarest species of hyenas with an estimated population of only 10,000. They have a social hierarchy comparable to that of wolves. Okay. With a mated pair and their offspring. Now, that's really cool. They live in clans composed of extended families of 4 to 6 individuals. So the strand wolf, has anybody ever heard of this thing before, team?
No, this is new to me. It looks like a zebra. I mean, the legs look like zebra stockings. There's something stripy going on. And then the top looks like a whole different animal. Like the whole thing is strange.
Is this another one where God got bored again and just slung together some animal parts like the duck bill?
Right.
You know, I had one of those books as a kid where you could turn different sections of the page and create different animals. And it kind of reminds me of that, you know.
Looks like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Never seen it though.
I thought it was interesting that it's the very rarest species of hyena, but there's like a population of up to 10,000 of them. To me, 10,000 is a lot. Like I didn't realize 10,000 is rare. So that surprised me. And I think part of the reason why they're called a strand wolf, why they throw wolf in there too, is because their behavior with the family grouping is not like a typical hyena. So it's almost like hyenas are maybe evolving, or, you know, even the scripture in the Bible that changed from the lion will lay down with the lamb to the wolf will reside with the lamb. Like, so there's definitely connections as far as all that goes, but basically a more family structure I see here.
I want to hop in with the chat. Paisley says, no more lone wolves. We are joining in community. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good reading into that. I like that message
like that,
there.
Paisley. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that's one thing that makes this so fun, because there's so many things that could be read into this. Like I would have never thought about that. No more lone wolves, and the family structure and how this is set up as a group, a community, if you will. The way their system is set up. Sean and Chris, what do you two got on this one?
I didn't really tune into this one more besides the family structure. So Sean, what do you have on this one?
Okay, so mostly having to do with the hair. They're representing like a authority aspect with the stripe. The hair its ability mostly goes into management of the land, mostly going into purification, mostly in like taking out prey that is darkening the land. It's like a karmic effect. If you own a cat, then you kind of know it. Like why are they so vicious and kill things all the time and just play with all their. If you look at the spirit of like their prey, it's not exactly the best spirit in the world. So there's like a karmic remedy for it. So there's like going into that and its management. The hair acts as a lot of things, both in mating, pheromone, attraction, like accumulation of their sweat and all that. And if you know about hair technology, like Native Americans would have their hair grown very long, and they could like psychic track and tell things in the area. The military hired them in an experiment, and they shaved off their heads. They lost their ability. So it's like an antenna and like magic wand type of effect ability. And there's various things besides that going into hair. There's energy emission. It also accumulates a large amount of energy in materia magic of density, collection of charge. And then it also acts like a sensory layer. If you ever have a beard that's long and for some reason it gets irritating and itchy, like sometimes out of blue, it's like, why doesn't that happen all the time? Sometimes your antennas are receiving an overpowered signal and it kind of overwhelms it, depending on what environment you're in. So it has a sensory lay of emission and then a reception that allows it to have more understanding of what's going on in the area, giving it like more data, psychic data, so that it can be more of a management for its territory. And then building up energy is also the difference.
Yeah, so you see how many things Sean tuned into, like the hair. I would have never thought about the hair part, but when you look at the structure of the animal, you really have to look at all the different elements, the colors, etc.
So definitely fascinating. So what would be the overall message for this coming into our reality? Just the general message to reality for this showing up. Why would it show up at all? What is it telling us? I understand the meanings of each thing, but overall, what is it saying?
Well, it has to do with decisions of the authority in the DNA lineage, as well as what Earth is hiring beings and what she needs, and then the lineage fulfilling a role and then evolving their DNA to be better at that role, and then like slight DNA changes that before interacting this timeline, like I agree with you, that it's experimented on a offshoot timeline and then merged here, and that is triggering the DNA of existing hyena species to change and then create an offshoot.
So another example of an upgrade of types is we've seen DNA upgrades coming in quite a bit lately. So I appreciate that, Sean. And we aren't done with the animals just yet. We got another sponsor that came to us this month, wanted to be on the show. The smallest hoofed animal, ladies and gentlemen, not a mouse or a deer, but an even-toed ungulate. So I had never heard that. Now, this might be my own ignorance. I'm going to be fair here. But I had never heard the word ungulate until like 2 days before we started this email chain. I was playing a game and it brought up that specific creature. And I thought, that's interesting. Never heard of that before. Just must be something I missed. No big deal. I don't call Mandela on everything unless I'm, really sure. And then within a day or two, I get this email from you guys with the ungulate. And I went, no, wait a minute here. So I thought that was just a really weird synchronicity there that I never even heard the word before. And then all of a sudden it's a thing we're talking about. The smallest in the world. This species has not changed in 34 million years. The species has not evolved in any way in 34 million years. That's huge. In November 2019, conservation scientists announced that they had photographed silverback chevrotains. Okay, there's no R there. Chevrotains in a Vietnamese forest for the first time since the last confirmed sighting in 1990. So that is huge. So they've come back to the timeline. Is that what I'm understanding, Cynthia? Did I read that right? I'm a little confused with the wording there.
Yeah, it seems like they couldn't confirm or deny that these animals were still with us, but now they can confirm that as recently as 2019, it looks like they're back. So there's a little 30-year blip. We've seen this happen a lot. So this is another one that, thank goodness, it looks like it's back with us. It would be a shame to lose it after 34 million years. And some people, when they see this, they're like, wait a minute, it's been around 34 million years. I've never heard of it. So this is kind of here for two reasons this month. It
looks like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer to me.
But these are tiny, right?
Right. Yeah, it's really tiny.
Really tiny. Like, what's the size? How many inches tall?
I don't have that information available to me.
Okay.
Yeah, they're small.
They're closer to the size of a mouse than a reindeer.
Yeah, maybe 12 to 14 inches. Maybe some get as big as 16 inches tall. I think I saw some like
holy cow,
12.
So this is the size of a cat.
Yeah, basically.
Smaller. Yeah,
tiny.
Yeah, and they have hooves, so they're considered the smallest hoofed ungulate animal. And some people I know have heard of these before, and it's a thing. For myself, I was like, whoa, I never saw this before.
I had heard of it, but I didn't know that they were still around. So it's kind of interesting. Like, yeah, you're right. Some people never heard of it. Have you guys heard of it before, Shane and Jerry?
No, not me.
Like I said, I hadn't even heard of the word until 2 days before you guys showed me this one. So, no, this was totally new to me. I've grew up in the South. South's known for deer. South's known for deer hunting. And I've never seen it. And I don't know where they're supposed to be. Let's be fair here. But Vietnamese forest. But I've never seen anything or encountered anything that small. Nor have I ever heard of anything that small, especially in the deer or the hoofed family. So definitely an original for me. The size of a cat, folks. The size of a cat. A deer the size of a cat. Let that one sink in for just a moment.
They stand about 30 centimeters. That's 12 inches tall at the shoulders. So.
A foot tall.
Wow. It's actually bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
There are dogs that are bigger than this thing. So with this tiny little addition to our timeline, or I wouldn't even say addition, come back to our timeline after missing for a short period in 34 million years. And I'm assuming they know that by the fossil records and the archaeological fossil record. There's been no fossil changes. Not to say that internal organs and whatnot may not have done something, but there's been no fossil changes over 34 million years plus that they can find. Chris and Sean, are we reading anything here, guys?
I saw Sean writing. Do you have anything for this one, Sean?
Yeah. Okay, so this will give you a little window into the whole predator-prey cycle. Different planets sometimes will have them at their inception, some don't, some get invaded and then have to adjust to it. So there's like going on with the food chain kind of thing. It's all about abundance in the concept of flourishing how many of its population it has. So that like some creatures like mouse and rodents and small woodland animals will put most of their cards into how many animals they breed, how many their children they breed and flourish, and then they become like prey to other things. So a survival technology so that the being is anchored and resilient in the timeline and can't be taken out so easily in outbreeding things. Once you're in the predator-prey cycle, what you interact with in eating and what eats you is also interacting with your incarnation. Like if you were to eat a fish, the fish would then be able to experience you and then have more authority to, if it gains tech, to be ready to become a human. But usually, some spirits are very young, so they're like elementals and stuff, so they got to accumulate more experience to be more successful. But yeah, and then they accumulate data through the collective consciousness of the species. The goal is to be as many games as possible, stabilize control and presence and immunity and growth through the exploring of as many situations and places, and also collecting a large amount of DNA tech through what they eat in different types of plants and berries and all those things, as well as when they are experiencing the predators that take them out. They're interacting with that DNA. One of the big things they do as a species is unite all that they interact with in that grid. So you can also see the chess move of other animals that we have in our diets and other things like that. So there is benefits to being in this game.
So, what would be the overall message of the Mandela effect to have these guys back on the timeline?
Well, it's more unit, so it's like affecting how spirits interact with each other and promoting more unity than anything else. The hive mind consciousness of the collective consciousness of what spirits are allowed in this incarnation, and people can, if they want to, if they can make more of themselves as they grow, put parts of themselves invested into the species if they haven't already. They can grow pretty strongly. Like cow consciousness is huge. Like it affects a lot of things. It has a lot of authority. It's really resilient. Same thing with deer. Same thing with everything that we have in our staple diets. This has a similar consciousness, and it's super resilient, even if it's small. It's got
So unity and resilience then would be the messages you're getting out of this then.
Yeah, and the same thing with everything on this planet is affected by that. So you can compare.
When you look around at the planet today and the societies around the planet and what all is going on within these societies, I'm just going to leave that at that level. You would need more unity to be brought into the world. It's something that we would need to see, more unity creatures, more unity energy being brought in. Cynthia, go ahead.
Yeah, there's something interesting. If you look at the design on its chest, it looks like a fleur de lis, that's heraldic symbol that shows up on heraldry for nobility and so forth. So I think that's a symbol of unity and purity. So I think that's beautiful that this seems to be hidden right.
It's actually considered a compass, the fleur de lis. It's a version of the compass, which is leading the way.
It sure is. That's just look. I just noticed it as Sean's talking. Like, look at that.
Wow, good reading. Look at Cynthia reading them now. This is absolutely cool. Told you guys this is going to be a really fun episode. And speaking of fun, from the small to the smaller to the smallest, then we'll get to the smaller after the smallest. We put them in the wrong order for that. But coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, we have the extremely rare bright rainbow sea slug. When I said small, I wasn't kidding. Found in a UK rock pool, discovered May 2023 by Vicky Barlow in Falmouth, UK. Scientific name is Babakina anadoni, or anadoni, whichever you prefer. Typically seen in the waters of Spain, Portugal, and France. And I have to stop right here before we get into this, ladies and gentlemen. Consciousness Watch. Thank you so very much. Throw in the super sticker with the bouncy yay celebration person with a $49.99 American, ladies and gentlemen, $49.99 donation. Thank you. Thank you very much. Consciousness Watch. It is sincerely appreciated. Remember, if you want to donate, ladies and gentlemen, it is tax deductible. That's a nice little deduction there on your taxes, that $49.99. Just make sure you save your receipts that you are sent in the emails, and you can take that off your taxes. Anybody can do it. Just hit that little super chat button right down there at the bottom, and it doesn't matter. I guess they have a minimum, but it doesn't matter how much you donate. There's no minimum for us. There's no maximum for us. We really appreciate anything you guys would like to give. Thank you so much. Once again, Consciousness Watch, huge shout out. Woohoo! Anyway, back to this, ladies and gentlemen, the extremely rare bright rainbow sea slug. So this is pretty. This is really pretty. It reminds me of a kid's toy gone wrong or something, or, a rope unfrayed or something, but really, really gorgeous thing here. Go ahead, team. What do you guys think of this?
Well, those rainbow colors, of course, are quite striking, and the fact that it just showed up recently this month, it sounds like it wasn't around before. Now it's here. It feels, just my read on it is very bright and promising. Just like all of the possibilities are here. We're expanding our sense of ourselves, expanding our connection to the world. I love its little antenna. It's reminding all of us to tune in, see what you can sense, and let your own perception of the world expand. So to me, it feels like an invitation, joyful anticipate to be, if I was that sea slug and I had all those little things going on, I don't know what they are, but they feel like they're sensing water currents moving, feeling the flow. So those look like indicators too. Let's feel the flow. Let's feel what's happening, feel which way the currents are going, tune in, and realize that we can all transform in ways that we may never have expected. We can totally show up out of nowhere. So I think it's quite positive. Seems like a fun, like you said, kind of like a play toy or something.
It does. It looks like a little play toy, like something you would find in a garage sale box or something. I'm just saying, it's cute, or like a tub toy for a
Yeah,
kid. Right?
tub
Like a little
toy. That's
tub
what I
toy.
was thinking. You can see your kid playing with it, like that thing's moving. That's really neat and futuristic. Was it have a battery? No, it's real. What? Absolutely beautiful, though.
Surprise! What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's interesting because these, land slugs versus sea slugs. Obviously, sea slugs can only exist in the oceans, in the water, or else they would dry out and die.
Really?
So I think a lot of
No, I'm
what
kidding.
no. So I think there could be some clues to this slug related to the oceans, especially because it's not like it's a brand new sea slug. They're typically off Spain, Portugal, and France. The global narrative will send out a warning, like, it's because of the world is heating up because cows are farting too much, and so sea slugs are going, whatever the global narrative is trying to convince us of. But I see something, it could represent something positive for the oceans.
Mhm.
It could you see the pinks, you see the purples, you see the yellows in this particular slug. Again, if you associate that with the different chakras, like the yellow, the solar plexus, the energy source, and then of course the purple, the violet, crown, and then the pinks usually are like the higher heart, like that part. So, and anytime we see anything rainbow, it's beautiful, whether it's geography or trees or sea slugs or whatever it is. It just shows that what we see, and the rainbows, even like the rainbows we've had a lot of episodes we talk about rainbows, just rainbows themselves are changing, different types of rainbows, and how the color schemes of a double rainbow is inverse of the other. So there's a lot of clues, I'm sure, when you finally tune into this, which I'm sure Sean has been doing as we're speaking. So Sean, what do you get about this particular very special sea slug?
Okay. Yeah. And that's it. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, more like sacral stuff than I'm reading with most other things. So it's it's taking water in and making various creations out of that, such through its fluids. It seems to have a anti-suffering effect once, like how fluids from a slug, and its trail, and how whatever it uses in secretions would have to its environment and the beings around it. So it's anti-suffering. It also makes various types of energy in recycling that it takes in from the water, and then it's like a recycling plant for that, and makes various types of energy dantans inside itself. It doesn't start with barely any unless it's like a high-powered spirit, but then why would you want to incarnate as a slug other than to gain all the tech of it that you didn't have? So it increases it with what energy it brings in. It makes dantans. Dantans are like energy battery compressing container, treasure troves, whatever in your body that you can store chi in, like qigong, but in other types of energy too, you can make them. It has, for some reason, the ability to bring in infrared energy, which is a very high permeant energy in the environment. So if you're usually people have RH negative DNA will go into that. The ability to draw an infrared energy and then use that for magic or portal tech or whatever they're able to, because they can then transmute into other types of energy. It's got a womb generator, which is rare for animals. Humans, mostly women, of course, will have the womb gate, which can generate their own place of power, and men usually have to go externally, like to mountains, to bring in more power to themselves. But women, the more healed, purified, protected they keep their womb gate, the more types of energy they can generate. This has like a similar generating function to it, but not as expanded as humans. It has a freedom effect to those spirits that incarnate into it, that amplifies freedom and finds solutions to any imprisonment or holding back limitation or enslavement on the spirit as they incarnate. So that'd be what I read into it.
So going from a unity reading into a freedom, a release of bondage, a expansion of free thought, free energy, freedom in general, something else we definitely need on this planet. I would point out that there has been a lot of purple showing up lately that I've noticed. Purple has really become a big theme. I also remember the rainbow. Where should we start? Mountains, rivers, lakes.
Yeah. Islands.
There was
Yeah.
islands, animals. We're seeing it across the board. So this has been a big, big, big theme in the Mandela Effect for a long time, is this rainbow theme. So definitely interesting there. It could be saying that it covers all spectrums. As we know, the Mandela Effect covers all spectrums of reality. So definitely an interesting read there. But this creature here, an amazing little creature, cute as can be, and has a meaning of increased freedom. So you can't beat that. Moving on, we have from the small to the smallest back to the smaller. So we're going to grow a little bit as we talk about the newly discovered hummingbird that looks like it's wearing a golden collar. We see the gold coming in once again, ladies and gentlemen, the golden timeline manifesting itself. The bird has never been documented before, but it was a hybrid that resulted from two related species, the pink-throated brilliant hummingbird, that's the name of it, not my opinion, and the rufous web brilliant hummingbird, again, that's the name of it, not my opinion. Both hummingbird species are known for having distinctly pink feathers on their throats, which led the researchers to question how pink mixed with pink could result in gold. Definitely not an expected outcome in the color chart for sure. Cynthia, you have anything on this one?
Well, the biology of it is, like they said here, it's questionable. It makes the biologists wonder, how is this happening? Now, we've talked about leucism in the past, about how it's different than an albino coloration, and it's usually not beneficial to an organism to suddenly go completely white unless they're in the snow. In this case, again, there's much less of a possibility of camouflaging when you've gone from something pink, which might be like, I don't know, it blends in a little bit more than gold. Gold is so flashy. This is shiny gold. And the fact that it can't be explained easily by the biologists, they're wondering, how did this mutation occur? They don't really have much in the way of sort of like looking into some other species, like, well, we know this happens, because they don't know why this happens, it sounds like. So it's really a first of its kind. And we love that in the Mandela Effect community. When something is first of its kind and they've never seen it before, it looks like it just sort of dropped in. This whole process of pink plus pink equals gold. There we go. This is something new to be looking for. Now it's on our radar. You know, we do talk about the golden age, the connection with Shambhala, and this idea, because the golden age has been prophesied as a time when the masters return. People that have been long dead return. What does that sound like? That's the alive again phenomenon from reality shifts, is what we've named the entire Mandela Effect after. And again, we've got gold. So, and on the throat, very symbolic, fifth chakra, fifth world. So we've talked about this aspect as well. Moving from this current age to the next one, this looks like a herald for the new age. It looks like finding a way to express our voice, to what we say becomes manifest. bringing that ability to all of us and blowing our minds. So I can't say enough good things about this one. It's an amazing, amazing arrival, and I'm really glad to see it.
Pink plus pink equals gold. That math is really giving me a headache now, Chris. I'm starting to see why you get headaches over there, sir. The Mandela effect can be quite head-aching at times. Pink plus pink equals gold. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen, because I have no idea how that works. Neither the scientist. That is comforting. I want to say real quick, I always said that science is still evolving. You can't call every scientific breakthrough a Mandela effect. We got to be careful when we draw those lines. However, what we have seen lately is when you got creatures that are coming onto the scene, and even the scientists like, hey, we got nothing. We don't know. We can't explain this. Then it starts to make me wonder, and more I'm starting to eat those words and really say, yeah, they're putting out these scientific explanations of a lot of these to try to cover the fact that it is a Mandela effect, that they don't know and they don't have an explanation, and they know the only other one is the one we're proffering, and they don't like that explanation.
Hey, Jerry, we've got a super sticker.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly where I was headed.
Okay.
I just wanted to finish the thought before I jumped onto it. Overprotected with a super sticker says, thanks for being you with the pear guy. So we appreciate that. Overprotected 1999. That is really, really awesome. Thank you so very much. Once again, if you would like to donate, it is tax deductible. Hit that little super chat button at the bottom. Also, do remember to hop over to our Patreon after the show and sign up over there and become a subscriber on Patreon too. We really, really appreciate that, guys. All right, and back to this. Shane, do you have anything you would like to add about the hummingbird with the golden color? Pink plus pink equals gold, sir.
Well, you know how the heart chakra is thought of as green, but pink is also another heart color. So you can look at it as we amplify our heart energy, we'll manifest the golden timeline or the golden age, right?
Oh, I love that. And it's a hummingbird. That's symbolic too. It's very meaningful.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, when I see that
frequency at which they hum, I'm sure has a lot of meaning. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, I think of the concept called alchemy. So going from like lead to gold, like how could it go from pink to gold? Like something that doesn't make sense. So could it be showing a representation of how we literally are alchemizing ourselves to, whether it's a golden timeline or upgrades in our avatar, or being able to have the abracadabra super manifestation technology that I create as I speak, through the throat chakra. So there's all these different elements that you can pull from just finding this particular bird that shouldn't have a gold, throat area, but does. Can't be, but somehow is.
Love it.
Sean,
yeah, so I was gonna say, Sean, what are you reading into this last sponsor of the week, sir?
Okay, so
or the month, I should say.
So hummingbirds, there's a lot of symbology with them, like peace and bringing out a new world. So this is the golden. Usually applies with solar plexus, and a lot of times I read its super powered effect of what it already is good at, which will be a super powered peace, speed, metabolism, and luck. There's also not with everyone, but like a certain percentage, maybe 0.20% will have a connection to infinite energy generation, which is a really overpowered ability. I love that ability to spark it, and then maintaining it is another factor because it's highly targeted. But they move fast, so they're hard to target by anything that would want to limit it. And then it has in the difference between regular hummingbirds and it has a force coming through its DNA lineage that's also empowering it.
Cool.
So empowerment. We're getting a theme here, it seems like. freedom, empowerment, unity. Very, very positive theme seems to be developing, and I'm loving to see that. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the sponsors for this week's episode, or this month's episode. I do too many weekly shows, can you tell? Of the International Mandela Effect Conference. Next up, we have the updates. We're going to run through pretty quick, I have a feeling. As once again, we have a lot to get to today in a very limited time. Cynthia Sue Larson, give us your update for the month, Miss Ma'am.
Okay, well, basically, I just look at my newsletter, what happened this month, and I gave a couple of videos. One is about the Zheng concept, very much what we're talking about today. It's relaxed, harmonious alignment within oneself at all levels of conscious agency. So it's a concept from martial arts. And in my in the video, I show a picture of me doing the sword form. Obviously, it's not safe to wield a weapon without having Zheng Xin. Zheng Xin is a Korean phrase, and it means mind, body, spirit. But it's so much more than that. It's just this, it's like the purity of oneness within oneself, so that everything, you might do something before you even know what you're doing in your conscious, rational mind. There's that much alignment happening. And then I have an interview on my podcast, Living the Quantum Dream, with Peter Canova, talking about quantum spirituality. So he's there on the podcast. And then I did a survey because a lot of people were telling me that they noticed Gordon Lightfoot is alive. Well, he was alive again. Now he's passed away, unfortunately. And I did a survey to find out how. I know. And it looks like on the survey on YouTube, it's still running. You can vote if you want. It was running at about 17% of respondents recognized that he had died. For me, it was back in 2020, right after the shutdown and lockdown began. But people, it's interesting. I asked for comments on when did you notice that? And then I was on that Buddha at the gas pump interview. But I think the thing that was the most fun, that was great. I had a great conversation with Rick Archer. And then I also did, finally, the video that I talked about before is out. It's on my channel. It's on Melinda Iverson Inn's channel. She and I did a dowsing trip up to the top of Mount Diablo at the intersection of 4 energy grid lines that come together there. And so I was dowsing, she was driving, and then we got to the top and noticed really interesting pulsing activity with the dowsing rods. So if you're interested in dowsing, want to see what it looks like, or just feel the energy of being up in that sacred place, the video is now on Melinda's channel, which I think it's Melinda Iverson Inn. Well, there's a link in my website too in the newsletter. So that's another way to find it. My newsletter is through my website, realityshifters.com. And there were lots of other stories about all kinds of Mandela effects, reality shifts, lots of cool stuff as usual. So it's a packed newsletter, and I publish it once a month. You can subscribe and see for yourself what's going on each month with me.
And it's always a fun read, something I enjoy receiving in my inbox every month. It's great information, guys, and it always has such a positive spin and outlook. As we know, Cynthia is known for her positivity, and how good can it get? Ain't that right, Shane? How has your month been, my friend?
Absolutely wonderful. I just actually released my newest album of all the music I've been putting out over the last year or so. It's called Love Train. So there's some remastered versions, and it's all available on all streaming services. Just look up Shane Cornell, Love Train. And other than that, I do offer sessions, BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing sessions for past life regression or other things, as well as one-on-one. So I've been doing a lot of that lately, and connecting up and getting ready for these events coming up. So I'll keep it short because I know we're short on time. But yeah, you can check everything out at my website at uotf.net, or just come over to my YouTube channel, Unbiased and on the Fence.
And you had a cool, our last person that pitched in, you had a great video with her, right, Shane?
Absolutely.
Sherry. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sherry went through a tough time, and she's actually in the chat there. And we did a wonderful video covering her experiences. So you might find that encouraging. I know a lot of people are losing loved ones around them. So it was definitely a way of kind of looking at things and finding the magic in some of our lowest times.
And Sherry's really awesome. Another person that was able to join us in person in 2019. And I'm sure if you ask her, guys, she can tell you how much incredible fun that was. All the links that are mentioned in this section will be dropped over here in the chat, as we have reality shifters already dropped in the chat, as well as uotf.net in case you want to log those for later. Next up, Christopher Anatra. I know I didn't go in the order of the screen. I went in order of my side screen over here. Christopher, how has your month been, the quantum businessman, my friend?
I got nothing. No, just kidding.
Well, that was quick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving on.
I was going to say,
Not true.
I'm going to say one thing, that I finally had my first YouTube video removed for misinformation.
Really?
And it was all of us together on what we called the Imec pandemic special about Brandy Vaughn.
Oh,
So YouTube sent me a message. They said that it was misinformation. And basically what we spoke, it's about 15 minutes in length. And we talk about the mysterious death of Brandy Vaughn, who used to be in pharmaceutical. She left because she saw all of the whatever deceit and things that was not for the good of the public. Profits before people is basically, and how she became.
Was the claim that she made?
Yes, the claim is. Yeah, we don't want to be removed again, right? The claim that she made. It's a video. She actually said basically, if anything happens to me, like I'm not suicidal.
It wasn't me
it
that did it. If anything occurs, yeah.
Exactly. So that was the video that was actually removed. So what I did is I put it on my quantumbusinessman.com website. If you go to my video section, go to banned videos. It's so far there's only one there. There may be more. I don't know.
Give YouTube time.
Yeah. So, and all of us are talking. I didn't think we said anything controversial, to be honest with you. We just had snippets of what she was talking about in public. And
this only shows, Chris, this only proves one thing. When certain platforms make moves as such, it shows that somebody was a little too close to where they should be, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And over the target.
And why wasn't there ever an actual investigative, report? Why wasn't someone like investigating this? Because there's indications that there's more going on than meets the eye, so to speak. So that's the only thing. I know we're limited for time today, but I just wanted to mention that. Go to quantumbusinessman.com. By the way, if anybody wants a session, I've opened one session, I think the first week of June, that I think is currently available. So you can go there and grab that if you want. I might open more as the month goes on, but people are loving the sessions, and I'm loving meeting Soul Family. It's great. So thank you.
And you've had some good videos on your channel too.
Yeah, and there's going to be
interviews with you and Sean.
Yeah, Sean and I we've got some more. We did podcasts. We still got to put them up. A new Symphony of Reality series about gameplay, like how to play the game. The first one's about amnesia, which is a feature of the game, because we're champion gamers, and if we didn't have amnesia, we'd figure this thing out like that. So yeah, so you'll be able to watch those videos. Be posting probably starting next week.
And again, that's quantumbusinessman.com, all one word, /banned videos to get to that specific video that he mentioned. Link is in the chat. And I have a feeling, this is just an idea, that it may be a growing list. That's just my opinion.
Hopefully not to the point the channel gets flagged or anything.
Right. Depends on how much truth is being told, doesn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, now we have myself here. I've actually had a pretty good month. I've got an announcement coming up tomorrow. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Huge announcement tomorrow night on the Dark Wolf's Den radio show. Freedom Report News. I can't spoil it right now, but there's a whole lot that we're going to be announcing. Huge announcement coming up. Things I've been working on in the background, things that have been worked on for quite a while now. AJ and I have been hinting at it for a while. We've got some stuff coming out. So lots of good information coming out. Isn't that right, Cynthia?
Oh yeah. I was thinking maybe you could put a comment on this video, like come back tomorrow and put a comment right here on the YouTube video.
I would love to do that.
Oh, thank
and
you.
let everybody know what the
So-
surprise is. And
So come
that
back
it
and
is,
check here too if they miss the show. Yeah.
Absolutely. Send me an email, by the way, to remind me of that. You're pretty good
Okay.
about that because I will
Okay.
get so busy,
Yeah.
But no, it's been great. I've been doing shows every Thursday night, ladies and gentlemen. You can catch us on the rippinrabbithole.com. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. You can also catch us on Rumble at the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. We have the Dark Wolves Den show over there. For those that don't know, the Freedom Report news show we do on Thursday night. And when we're able to, and we may, I'm still debating, maybe doing a show tonight, the Way Out Wednesdays, as I've finally been able to finagle a Wednesday night off of my other work. So we do talk about paranormal generally on Wednesday nights, conservative talk radio on Thursday night. So do check us out. We would love to have you over there. We just hit an anniversary, ladies and gentlemen. Huge anniversary this month. I almost forgot. May the 13th was the anniversary of the day I started the Dark Wolves Den radio show over on Rippin' Rabbit Hole. So it's 3 years to the day now we've been doing talk radio over there. Huge anniversary that was. So we are going into season 4, year 4 of the Dark Wolves Den radio show now, ladies and gentlemen. So we are seasoned veterans at this point, I guess, in the radio world. But that's where you can find us. And of course, all the work we do here at Imec, you can find it imec.world. That is imec.world. Do make sure you bookmark that page. That's the important page. That's the page you want to make sure that you go to. You always find our links off of that page. Any information or questions you may have, and if there's something on the site that you would like to let us know you'd like to see, or something's missing on the site, please do send us an email and let us know so we can get that corrected. We do our best to keep up with stuff, but it's a whole lot to keep up with in the month, and we've got a whole lot of stuff going on. So you find anything that you think is in error, do let us know. We will definitely check it out and get back to you. If you have any ideas, information, or Mandela effects you would like to share with us, also send us an email at team@imec.world. That's where you can send any emails to us here, team@imec.world. Excellent. I do appreciate that. And huge shout out to our behind the scenes producer who does the most incredible job in the entire world. Her name is Heather. She is absolutely amazing. She pulls the show together. She keeps up with the slides. She keeps up with the cut scenes and the speakers, and just absolutely incredible. Does not go get enough credit for all the work she does. So huge round of applause for our behind the scenes producer there. She definitely gives it her 110%, and we appreciate it. So speaking of, let us jump back in. You're back on deck, Heather. Let's roll this next slide out here. Thank you. A non-traditional surrealist portrayal of the crucifixion. This is Salvador Dali's crucifixion, the Corpus Hypercubus. Yes, you heard that right. The Corpus Hypercubus. One of Salvador Dali's best known paintings from 1954, oil on canvas, best known. I've never seen this thing a day in my life before first encountering it, day or two ago. So it's totally new to me. Unfolding the cube concept of time from humanity being locked in time via a 3D cube to a 4D tesseract. And if you unfold a cube and you look at it, it would create this design, this 4-way cross design. So if you were to fold this up, you would literally create a cube. Really, really amazing. Tesseract has 8 faces connected to the Mandela effect of 8 holes in the sacrum bone, and the cube of the root chakra, which connects us to the earth via infrared technology. This sounds like it is way above my pay grade when it comes to fringe topics. Cynthia, do you have anything on this?
Well, gosh, this is my favorite example of all time of the Mandela effect alive again. It's got to be Jesus Christ, number one, because talk about coming back from the dead, talk about rolling that rock aside, talk about being present again, alive again. So to me, this is got to be one of our most sacred examples. And then I don't know what to say. This is a new Mandela effect for me in terms of the art. I had not seen this or heard about Salvador Dali's famous piece. I guess it's a painting.
22.
Okay. So I don't know the size of it. It's unfamiliar to me. So I guess that's a person standing in front of it. This thing is big.
That's his wife.
Okay.
It'd be like,
So that's
like,
part of the painting. Then,
So it's
right?
for scale. Oh, it's part of this painting? I haven't seen
I
this.
don't know. I'm asking.
It's part of the painting. Yes.
It is. So I do not know this piece of art. So I'm looking at it like, is that a life-size person? Or I don't know anything about the scale. It's very new to me. I think that's extremely significant that it's bringing up dimensionality. That's something I bring up in my book, Reality Shifts, talking about this phenomenon. Again, alive again, Mandela effect. You know, I wrote that back in the 90s before we had the terms, but this dimensionality concept is pivotal to, in my way of thinking, to understanding this phenomenon. And so to have Dali bringing it up in such an extraordinary piece, this would have gotten my attention. It's brand new to me. The Tesseract, again, that's an extremely powerful symbol. I don't know what to say. I think I'd love to hear what you, Chris, and Shane, and well, yeah, Shane and Sean, what everybody else has to say, because I think it's amazing.
So the read I would get on this, and understand I'm not an intuitive, I'm not necessarily a good message reader, so take this with a grain of salt. But to me, this particular painting, this art would mean that it's saying to me that Jesus, the story at least, if nothing else, occurred on all timelines, across all of time. This crucifixion occurred, this forgiveness of sins of man, regardless of what timeline you're on, was still something that actually happened. One of those events that would be a time-locked event, if you will. At least that's what I would get out of this particular painting.
Nice.
I love that, Jerry.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would,
Mhm.
I was going to say, you would think I would have come across this in, art history in college when they were showing some of the most famous paintings. And this is just brand new to me. Like, I've never seen it before. And what I like to do is, like, we were emailing about this, and if another Mandela effect comes to mind, and this one actually reminded me as time goes by, the song from the movie Casablanca, and a lot of people remembering Play It Again, Sam, and all that. But that song having this other verse no one knew about. And when I went to check it out, it had actually switched. So it used to be the second verse of the song that they didn't include in the famous recording, but now it's the first verse. And not only did it change in that way, it used to say fourth dimension, and now it says third dimension from what I recall, which is strange because I always thought fourth dimension, being the dimension of time, kind of went with the song as time goes by. But now he says third dimension. So yeah, it's and it's weird because this is like going from 3D to 4D Tesseract. So it's almost like it had this mirror effect. When this reminded me of the other one, and I went and investigated it, it was just kind of like, wow, it's changed again from what I remember. So keep an eye on things. They can change multiple times, as we've seen with tons of these Mandela effects.
Yeah, I'll just add to that too, because this, like, when I first saw this painting, I was like, this was totally new for me. Because when you think about Salvador Dali's work, you think of like the melting clocks, and he's got other things that are famous. And then when I was reading that this is one of his best known paintings, I was like, like you guys, I've never seen this before. And I created, this is one of the parts to probably have it released in a few weeks, another one of the parts of my gameplay videos where I go deep into this concept about what is a cube and what is the hypercube or the tesseract, and the whole concept of unfolding the cube and how that relates to time, and how now we're experiencing time glitches. Like a lot of us we see like the glitches in the Matrix. I believe that what's beginning to happen, and what's going to happen more and more, we're going to see more of these, like the Matrix glitching out, but we're also going to better understand how time works. And I know a lot of us are already like, when we look at an object, we can almost see like I call them the dancing molecules, like things start to get pixelated, because I think we're starting to vibrate at a frequency that's a higher frequency than the world that's being projected around us that we see in, we'll call it 60 frames per second. We're starting to reach levels where we're getting a little bit more than that. And I think all kinds of amazing things are in the future, in the whole concept of the Rubik's Cube and how people are always trying to solve the Rubik's Cube. What's solving the issue of time, that type of thing. By the way, the spelling of Rubik's has changed for me as well. And now it ends in a K. Now I remember being like a C, R-U-B-I-C, Rubik's. I even remember an X, but I don't remember the K. So the whole spelling of the word Rubik's has changed as well. And then how this can be tied into the concept. And actually, Sean told me about this. Like the geometry of the root chakra is a cube, and I was like, I never heard that before. And I did some research, and I've heard other people talking about the geometry of the root chakra is the cube, and the cube is how we're connected, how our avatars connect. That's why we need to stay rooted and grounded, and why the root chakra is in red, because it's related to infrared technology and so forth. So this is like, there's all different levels that you can see and read into this. The bottom line is I think we're going to have a better understanding of time as it unfolds for us before our eyes in the near future. And Sean, I'd love to hear what input you have on this one.
Sure. Yeah, I'd say with anything having to do with Salvador Dali, his timeline's definitely in flux. He's got a lot of things going on, influencing what's going on. Like, how did he get to the consciousness he's at? If you looked at some of his paintings, it looks like he might have done drugs. Whoa, hot take there. But like with drugs, there's a lot going on. There's consciousness that can communicate with you. 80% of people that have taken like DMT have noticed beings communicate to them or appear, or symbols or images or things looking back, past life experience, all this kind of stuff, things that you want, things that the chemical is good at, like a Pink Floyd thing, like where light goes through it and then comes out like a rainbow. Same thing with your perception, your pineal gland, and tuning into the frequency like a radio signal with the piezoelectric effect of the pineal. So I read that he's got like 3 open portals in his timeline in which that allow change to it. So it's not done changing. His point in time, it's not like set in stone. And there's a little chess move battle between the light and the dark. The light seems to be winning for the most part, but dark has made some chess moves, as you can see in some of his art and some of the wounding he's gone through. With what I read with the symbology, at least subconsciously, I'm not sure. Like, he probably has a description of what he means, but in the eye of the beholder, with what I'm reading, there's a meaning behind humans kind of being the person representing all of humanity, the cross cube thing representing the matrix kind of crucifying humanity, and a pathway to getting out of that state of being through like being what like Jesus recommended through his pathway to become Christ-like, which the Christos and the moving up the spinal cord and of the cerebral spinal fluid, activating more of the brain cells, more awareness, more lucidity, more truth, more knowingness, goodness, going inward towards the heart, your connection to source, and shining out that, being a representative conduit for the divinity of all that is in the universe, expressing itself at more and more density and speed and output, so that the world around them can rise up and be brought more into what they perceive in a heavenly state. Anyway, so then there's a time loop thing going on, that things can go back in time and change the timeline of this person to where there might be more artwork that comes out of the blue that nobody knew about. So So that's why we're
So keep your eyes out for that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Dolly may have some new dollies on the way. Chris, go ahead.
I just want to add one more thing before we move on, is the movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey. You know, he's flying he's got the astronaut suit on, and he goes into the black hole, and he sees like his daughter in the library and all these different facets of time. So all of that is related to this as well. And the thing is, it's like it's the whole concept of the Tesseract and different phases of time and every moment of time. So, and the thing is, like, what are we observing? Like, is there a certain facet of time that we're observing one at a time? Like, are we at a lower frequency, higher frequency? So there's and I go into this in the video that I made, but I just wanted to throw a plug for the movie Interstellar and Matthew McConaughey, because it's a really cool soundtrack and a really cool movie.
Cynthia, go ahead.
Yeah, there's something interesting. I'm looking up the image, and can you see it's on a chessboard kind of grid? It's like there's
a black and white chess grid underneath
that's
it.
important. I never saw that, but that's important.
And it's floating up above it, so it's kind of like it's suggesting, and with the fact there's very significant that there's a human looking at that whole configuration, and also that to me it now symbolizes finding our way out of the machinery, out of the matrix, decoding the matrix, which are the theme of what we're talking about at the conference, of course. And it's very significant. It basically is along the lines of what Philip K. Dick was suggesting, that this is the time to really notice that in some ways what was going on with Jesus and the Romans and everything, that's this time too. It's like we're still dealing with some of those same issues. Very interesting. A lot of food for thought.
Good catch.
That is really awesome. So the photo seems to have expanded just in the time that we've been sitting here looking.
Because I didn't see this when Chris showed it. I didn't see that.
Yeah,
now I'm looking it up, and now I'm seeing it. So.
I've been staring at pictures of it online, like for the last month or two, and I never saw the chessboard in any photograph.
Well, now it's showing up. This is very interesting.
There you
I
go.
told you guys earlier, when we get together, it's
I've got
magic on
goosebumps.
another level. I'm telling you.
Oh my gosh,
That's so cool.
so cool.
So tell me, in the animal world, when it comes to lions, who has a mane, the male or the female?
The male.
The male generally tends to have the mane. How about a alpha female, ladies and gentlemen? It's a phenomenon that happens rarely in nature or in captivity, and in many of the cases, it's the result of a scarcity of male lions. Typically, she explains, it's the male's responsibility to act as a security guard for the pride, while the female's job is to hunt and take care of the young. These manes were the result of higher testosterone levels being in the lionesses, which, of course, we've seen the same thing when the hormones get thrown off in the human body. You have things like this with women growing mustaches and men growing parts of the body that men aren't supposed to grow, but definitely interesting here. So is this new to you guys, that a lioness can actually grow a mane?
Yeah, completely new for me.
Yeah, it's new for me too. By the way, this was from that posting that I saw in that group, the Mandela Residue Hunters. So someone there named Eric had found this, and as soon as I saw this posting, I'm like, this is new for me. I've never heard of a female lion being able to grow a mane. And it says it's very rare, but you could go online and find lots of female lions with manes. Like, it's not like they found 5 of them, there's a lot of. So what's rare? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's that rare when a male lion's not around. It seems like it's something that naturally happens.
I'm not reading a single one of these, but I love our chat. But yes, carry on. I do apologize. I want to point out when chat's going crazy over here, I ain't got to read what they're saying, but it's going nuts over here.
That's cool.
Definitely new to me. I've never heard of the female stepping up and taking the alpha male role. Maybe an alpha role, yes, but not an alpha male role, actually switching over. We have seen this in sea creatures a whole lot, that will change genders in order to continue the species. But we don't see this in a lot of land animals, and especially not in like the cat world, right? The feline kingdom, if you will. This isn't exactly what we have known as a natural occurrence. Is that correct?
Yes, I think so. Maybe it happens occasionally, but it's certainly, I've never heard of it. Oh, they're saying it happens when, I'm just taking their word for it, that when there's no male around, then an alpha female begins to develop a mane, but totally new to me.
Yeah, and you wonder too, besides the higher testosterone levels, like we were talking about the hyena before, and the hare being able to be able to sense more things in the environment around, maybe having that more growth of hair helps it become more of a protector for the pride. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
So Sean, do you tune into anything with these female lions growing manes?
Yeah, and not to get any type of divisive or anything. So whoever
pronouns,
I'm like neutral, and I see the value in politics on both sides. So I'm not, like I like getting perspective. So it's not keeping politics out of this. Okay, yeah. So masculine. The one in the picture, at least with what I read, has a lot more masculine energy, has a masculine spirit, is demonstrating strength, and is accumulating power through authority it's gained through the masculine energy for the feminine collective in the lion species. There seems, this is my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt, and whatever, if you have your opinion, I still love you. Not trying to project on anyone. Sometimes nature has this thing where sometimes it needs to maintain balance in the timeline, and it creates anomalies such as this to bring a balancing side to it over polarized system. So it like brings back balance in some way, which may not look at for some certain things, but so it's adding to the divine. It's a way to attempt a divine union between masculine and feminine in the lion-lyran DNA tech. Some of the lions that have this effect have been human before, and you can like maybe they've been feminists, so they'll go into like bring the need of what feminist and masculinist, what they need to do to balance each other when there's like dynamics of power to try to outcreate each other, and with things trying to divide everyone.
So balance is what you're reading into this then?
Yeah, and then also like some of their lions have like a mixed bag of type of spirits that incarnate into them, including a lot of light and a lot of dark in different expressions, and it shapes them. So this would be taking power from toxic masculine, dark ish type lion members in the masculine form, and also has an effect to attract a sisterhood of soul family. Has a territory in its authority it's retaining, with the mane representing kind of like an authority of the crown, with the size of territory in like what would we say the size of a state would be. Has definitely a lot more testosterone that goes into it, and has a camouflage type of thing with its presentation, mostly towards prey, to try to initiate an effect of automatic submission based on its dominance it's emitting. Yeah, that's what I read into that.
Cool.
So balance is the overall thing here, from male to female, masculine, feminine. The overall universal balance between the two is what it sounds like Sean is reading into this. Very, very fascinating. I told you guys, very fun show. And perhaps you don't agree with that. Perhaps you have your own message you get out of this, and that's okay. That is completely okay. You don't necessarily have to agree with the messages we put forth. We could be just as wrong as anybody else. So there you go. That's what makes this theory so fun, is we can all get both personal messages as well as overall messages of humanity out of these things. And like the next one has a message that has changed, actually. The original message is
feminine, multiple species. think ways to define that based on it being over exerting in certain ways. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, you're fine. I appreciate you jumping in there. Definitely correct me if I say something wrong. Next up, next slide, please. We have Matthew 18:20. So this is a Mandela effect that's a little older. I'm sure most of us have heard of this.
Yeah.
For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them. So if it's 4, is it game over? If it's 1, is it game over? Is Jesus like got a crowd limit? Is he suddenly got like PTSD or something? Is he socially awkward? Like I don't quite comprehend this. Did he get autism? Like I'm confused here. And I don't mean anything bad against anybody who has anything I just mentioned. Most remember Jesus saying, where 2 or more gather in my name. That's how I remember.
Yes. Me too.
How about you guys? Cynthia, is that what you remember?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Show of hands.
Shane?
Yeah,
me
I
too.
grew up with that 2 or more.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they changed it because of the Who.
Well, who's they?
Right. Yeah, well, I don't want to get more specific than that.
Who are you? In the Bible, the number 2, sorry, didn't mean to give everybody a headache there. The number 2 can refer to the husband, wife, the sacred marriage. The number 3 can refer to Father, Mother, Son, Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Matthew, written in Greek language. In Greek, and according to Pythagoras, the number 3 is the perfect number, representing harmony, wisdom, and understanding. So the big one here is where 2 or more gather in my name has become where 2 or 3 gather in my name. After that, you're on your own. Sorry. You must keep small groups, very small groups for me to be there.
That makes it sound like a chess move, actually. That makes it sound like don't congregate, like what happened the last few years. Don't gather, don't get together, etc. It sounds like a control mechanism, kind of a move, a chess move, right? Maybe Chris could talk to it.
Oh, and stay 6 feet
2
apart.
forward and 3 over.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep it to gatherings of 2 or 3 families only,
Yeah, to me, so when I was, this is like an example of like how can you tune into a Mandela effect? Like, is it positive or is it negative? So I was getting that it was positive.
Okay, good.
And the whole concept about the book of Matthew was written in Greek. So when they translated from Greek, the actual number 3 is there. And then as it says in the slide, is that the number 3 in Greek represents harmony, wisdom, and understanding. It's basically the perfect number. So where 2 or the perfect number, however many it is, there'll be the perfect number gather in Jesus' name. That's where he would be. So to me, this would be an example of a way you can like tune into a Mandela effect. And, sometimes you look at the words, you look at the etymology of the word, you look at the frequency of the word. In that song, Stairway to Heaven, for example, there's a verse that goes, because sometimes words have 2 meanings. And a lot of times they do have 2 meanings. And sometimes I don't know if our divine selves actually can understand the frequency of the different words. So, yeah, the words itself in a Mandela effect could give us a way to interpret what's going on with it, especially the etymology of it, and then going, what are the actual meanings to it? Like the word weave, like we've all had a good time, WE''VE, also sounds like weave, like what a spider does to spin its web. So that's just an example, but it's throughout how we pronounce things and how we spell words and spelling and all that. And we're constantly with our words casting spells, like literally. So yeah, just another way to look into this one particular Mandela effect and what it might mean. And I'm sure, Sean, you have an interpretation too that you've tuned into.
Sure. Okay, so I'm comparing and contrast before and after. The 2 in thy name only amplifies the power of each individual 2 times. If it's 3 times, it's over 100 times for each individual. There's also mostly going into the family unit represented. In divine masculine, divine feminine, making divine child. that also represented in the Holy Trinity and the strength and structure of the like pyramids and the whole thing of the triangle and the power of three. There seems to be a thing with this with Bible changes that are very interesting. The Bible is a multidimensional codex. It's got like time travel wars over it, especially at the point of the Council of Nicaea when things are voted on, what things in the Bible are taken out, edited, put in, stuff with that. So there's like a light and a dark chess move going back and forth over what happens in the Bible. Currently, the light's winning with it, but there's still dark things incurred into it. And each time there's an attempt on the dark to change something with it, they have to output way more energy, like an outrageous amount of temporal energy to even do that. And the beings that are mostly warring over it are what most people pray to when they think of God, which is the prime creator of the galaxy. But some people will also have their energy go to the prime creator of the universe, which is the same being, just like micro, macro, and then going up all the way to the creator of everything, being the same being. And it's fighting against. There's various apex multidimensional predators that I've tracked back on the planet in Christianity, like this with the opposer, Satan. I call the S-man to not do the Beetlejuice effect. I read multiple beings pretending to be by this name to promote fear. The one that's playing a chess move against it is the prime dark opposer predator of the consciousness of Earth, trying to steal her authority through like wounds she's sustained, and then playing that chess move back and forth over the Bible. There's so it's like an amplification of the power of the family unit and beings that are coming together in that, as well as let's see next. Okay, yeah, it has an opening to connect to the beings that the positive beings that cause the positive Mandela effect changes to the Bible, and you can reach out to the teacher of the authority, the prime creator of the galaxy, to learn how to do Mandela effects in mostly protection, repair, and preventing of negative Mandela effects, especially with this one.
I appreciate all that information, Sean. Quite a bit of information there for sure. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, and that is your reading on where two or more gather in my name, as we see on the actual picture to the right there, or where two or three gather in my name. Two or three, just two or three. Remember, more than that, you're on your own. So moving on to our next slide, being of on our own here. I am running out of time, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. About 10 minutes, I am going to have to dip out of here as I have another meeting planned. I kind of overplanned the day today. A lot of stuff going on. So I do apologize. I will have to dip out here soon. This one here, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a story. I work for an auto parts company. I won't say the name of the auto parts company that I work for, but I'll tell you they really, really like the color green, and I'm going to leave it at that. So I was typing, a customer came in the other day and asked me for a carburetor, so I typed into the computer the way that I remembered the word carburetor being spelled. And about halfway through the word, it said, yeah, I got nothing. I went, wait a minute, what? I know we sell these, so I backed it up, and when I got to the B, it finally gave me the spelling. And can you guys in the chat out there guess which spelling is the correct spelling? Because it blew my mind. Now, the word carburetor...
It blew your engine.
Do what?
It blew your engine.
It blew my engine, yes. Blew my engine and my mind. My mind's engine. Yeah, we'll get there in a minute. Combined with the suffix Carbur itself comes from the verb carboner, meaning to carbonize or to mix with carbon. Invented by Carl Benz, his carburetor design aimed to mix fuel, typically gasoline, with air in the correct proportions for efficient combustion within the engine. The carburetor accomplishes this by utilizing the Venturi effect, where the flow of air through a narrowed section of the carburetor creates a pressure drop, drawing fuel into the airflow. Hidden meaning related to carbon. So before we answer the last question, I've got quite a few questions myself. Again, this blew my mind. I will give the UR spelling because I wasn't 100% sure on that part. It may have been UR. The problem I have a problem with is this E right here, because carburetor, that sounds a lot like an A to me, and not just the sounding of it. I know it not always spell it how it sounds. I get that. I remember the A being part of the spelling. Like, I've prided myself on my spelling. Now, I don't know every word in the dictionary. Nobody does. I get that. But I've prided myself on my spelling, and this here with the A, no, I'm sure the A was there, not the E. And once again, you have this EA flippity floppity jumping around thing going on. These two letters, once again, being used in this Mandela effect. Cynthia, what do you think? I know it's a bit of a weird word, bit of a long word, but what do you think about this one?
Well, this one, I remember the U part looks okay. I remember there was a U in it, but words like alligator, you're right. It would be, a gator is short for alligator, and we don't expect it to be ETOR. That would be an ATOR. Carburetor, that's pronounced like alligator, kind of. It would rhyme. So you're right. This is kind of bizarre. And this is one of those words, I don't see it a lot because I'm not working that close to, like you are, working with vehicles and parts and all that stuff. But this is strange. It looks a little bit weird. It looks like maybe there's been a change here from the ATR, possibly. I think the U, I do remember the U. So I would put that in there. The rest of it, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure on this one.
Shane, what about you, sir?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the BU or BE or BO, as someone put in the chat, I noticed, but I definitely know it wasn't ETOR, Like I've never seen that. And I tore a carburetor apart as a teenager, and it's got like hundreds of parts, and I had, you know what I mean? So it ain't like I've never come across it before. I've definitely, I bought a carburetor
you literally
kit.
worked with them and whatnot. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah, that's strange.
It blew my mind. Like I said, when I seen it come up in my computer, I went, what? That can't be right. And once the customer was gone and first chance I got, I grabbed my phone, took a cigarette break, and did some research. And the more I looked, the more I was like, no. It's not even like a British spelling or like an alternate spelling. This is legit the spelling for this word. Chris, what's going on here, man?
Yeah, I think we all agree that it definitely wasn't the ETOR part. It just doesn't, it even like makes the word look different. Like you would definitely pronounce it differently. You wouldn't say carburetor if it was itor, carburetor. So yeah, again, so many of these different spelling changes, I'm sure they all have, hidden meanings as to why we're now using the French version of it versus I'm not sure what the version of it was before it was French. So yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. I do see the connection though with carbon and how it basically mixes with carbon.
Before you get into that, let me stop you just real quick here. Somebody put the BOR spelling over here in chat. And let me tell you, that looks so right. CARBORATOR. That actually looks so right to my eyes. I don't know if that's from a memory or what it is, but
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like my eyes are like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's familiar. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry. Carbon, in relation to carbon.
Yeah, so relation to carbon, we're carbon-based beings, right? And I've spoken about this before. So what is carbon? Carbon is composed of 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons, the 666. And then there's the whole concept of us, our DNA alchemizing and going into a type of more of a crystalline type form. So there are those concepts that I talk about. I've heard other people talk about. Could this be a clue about just the nature of carbon starting to change? Because there's been other types of things, like metals have the new elements on the periodic table, like Einsteinium, that I never heard of before, but it's been there since the 1950s, or berkelium, or californium. You know, some people have known about that their whole life, and like, of course, there's always been Einsteinium, but like, to me, I never heard about that. Or even how, like, if you take gold, silver, and copper, I was always taught that the most electrically conductive was always gold. But now, out of gold, silver, and copper, gold is the least. Silver is the best conductive, and then copper, and then gold.
Well, remember, Chris, pink plus pink equals gold.
That's all I need to know. It's all about love. It's all about the heart. Yeah. So, yeah. So could it be a clue in this spelling change that you spotted? You know, reminding us that there's something about carbon, which is what the carburetor works on, that might be changing for us.
That is a great observation.
And I have to make an observation here myself, ladies and gentlemen. I love you guys so much. You guys out there in the audience, you guys here on the team. But unfortunately, this wolf has another meeting he must make his way over to, another den I must invade. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for being here with us today.
See you
We're
next
not
month.
closing. I'm heading out. That's it. We get so much more to go on this show. I'm leaving you in very amazing hands. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the show. I will try to catch back up if I have time after my meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And until next time, together we go, together we grow. I'm out. Cynthia, show's yours.
Thank you. Yeah, let's.
And unfortunately, I have to dip too. My sister's coming in town. It's the anniversary of my brother's death, so we're celebrating that. It's going to be a special time, and she's going to be showing up anytime. So, unfortunately, I got to dip out a little bit early this time. So
we're going to keep going. But don't you guys leave, audience, because we're still going.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, Shane. See you next time. Okay. Well, let's. Was there anything else we wanted to say about carburetor, or let's move on, shall we? Next slide. Unless Sean wanted to say something about the carburetor.
Yeah, so it was a very simplistic effect that mostly went into from the core of carbon. So the change on carbon's timeline, and then, but still, you know, carbon's everywhere, so that affects a lot. It seems to be able to hold more truth through material magic, like if you go into Kabbalah and the mystic Judaism, where they like go into the concept of using magic to tap into the power of the atom and then know more of the universe, quanta. And world change seems to have also 5 times more desires met into consciousness and 2 times more shadow work going on. Coal, it's like also going to the effect of coal into diamonds, lead into gold in the transmutation with what shadow work is, turning your lead consciousness into gold consciousness, transmuting the darkness into light.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, yeah, there's a lot to think about here. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide and take a look at something completely different. We've got an item from history, forgotten history, that is, and this is a devastating explosion that happened in Mobile, Alabama, and that was back May 25th, right about this time of the year, but 1865. And this, here are the details. About a month after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, an ordnance depot in Mobile, Alabama exploded. This explosion was heard 100 miles away. It killed between 300 to maybe thousands of men, women, and children. Despite the Civil War, because of the cotton trade, Mobile was experiencing extraordinary prosperity prior to the explosion. The explosion caused all of northern Mobile to burn. The cause of the explosion, never determined. So that leaves it open. Who or what was responsible for this? And Mobile, Alabama never fully recovered. This slide shows the question, was it time travelers? And at that, I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Yeah, so this is something that came into my reality. This is actually something else came into my reality this morning. You know, the global narrative, we'll call it forgotten history. So this was really interesting because of, well, first of all, Mobile, Alabama. People from that were living in Mobile, Alabama, they were, even though the Civil War was raging on, they hardly even felt it. Like they just were living their lives. There was a lot of prosperity going on in the city. You know, it was a port city. The cotton trade was booming. England and Europe was buying a lot of the cotton for their cotton mills. So it was really prospering. And then the war ended. You know, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. And then all of a sudden, this prosperous city was like brought to its knees. So when I was tuning into this, the first thing that I got was time traveler involvement. And so sometimes what I do is, like, when I try to tune into a Mandela effect, you know, I try to figure out, you know, is it what I call timeline insertion or timeline editing? Could, like, maybe some technology like CERN be involved, or could time travel be involved? And I was getting that for this one, it was an act of sabotage by time travelers. And there's a lot of these things that go on. And especially when things enter into the reality history in a negative way. And there's a lot of timelines where the South actually won the Civil War. And, you know, and the North was able to finally win because somehow they were given advanced information from a source, which I believe to be time travelers, that were giving the Northern military intel that there's no way they could have known the South was going to do X, Y, or Z. So this particular disaster has got the marks of U.S. military time travel type stuff with the intended purpose that it made the North stronger. And that's what they want. They always want a stronger military. Like, if we do this, what'll happen to the timelines? So that's what I was tuning into it. And Sean, I don't know if, you know, this might be completely new for you. I don't know if you've tuned into this one yet, but if you have something on that, you know, let us know. And even before, okay, because there's one more thing I want to add, but I'll let you go next.
This one's a little controversial, and it seems I'd agree with you. Time travel does have the signature of it, and people are like, oh, why can't there just be regular history? If anyone were asked that, time travel affects a lot of things. When time travelers aren't that want to have an effect and aren't just wanting to observe things and go back and have a little vacation unobserved, which there are those, but the ones that want to have an effect, damn be it anyone else in the entire timeline, if they're like power hungry and they have time travel tech, they don't care. They want power. They're willing. They are actively looking for the things that affect the most stuff in the timeline and to have the outcome that they want with looking past tech. Sometimes we'll have predictive models and AI that go towards that. Most of the beings that are involved in this war are in the future. Like, so future timelines coming back and messing with us now and as well as the past. So right now, this mostly goes into the war between the U.S. and the China factions of different outcome of potential timelines in the future that have gained a whole bunch of power in time travel tech and then want to solidify their timeline and their power and increase how many benefits to their civilization and limit and weaken their opponent. So there's a timeline battle of over 100 back and forth jumps on both sides, trying to strengthen their side and weaken their opponent. This one has to do with China's one of the timelines where they, and I don't think this is solidified at all, but like it's one of the potentials, and there's some negative consequences with it, where communism takes over 90% of the countries. Is this from one of the timelines? It's not, again, set in stone, but in 500 years in the future, I'm reading, and they're coming back and causing a big wounding event, and there's some consequences that both affect AL and the state, and but with each negative chess move, there's the light is allowed to counter with probably even more force. This leads to 7 times more stability, because with every wound there's a effort to heal and grow and gain immunity, like when you take a virus and you get even more immune. This affects the families that were affected and their lineages into the future. That seems to be a secret chess move I'm not allowed to know about fully, and it also changes the landscape. This is Alabama?
Yeah, Mobile, Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah, and its ability to do things in the future, which not all of it's healed. So this is still an anchored wound and a sacrifice by the dark forces that are then using that sacrificial energy to anchor in their chess move and make that solidified future timeline more parasitically attached to this one, and then anchors that effect in time so that it's not like able to easily go back and stop it from a countering force. But then the light has a counter chess move, similar to how the whole COVID thing happened and affected a lot of people, and it was like a push towards an excuse, like never let a crisis go to waste, right? Like Obama said, and for the dark force to try to take more power and control. There's a counter in the light, which through betrayal, which is one of the things that wakes up the most people. It woke up a lot of people, so this will affect mostly the family just because it's being covered up. But if the Mandela Effect community bring this out and let this become more well known, it can also have even more effects.
This particular forgotten history Mandela Effect from Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah,
Okay.
and other ones that I think are also going to be covered up in history. So like,
yeah. And I was going to say that another forgotten history thing came into my awareness just this morning about how in 1943, New York City was almost destroyed. And what it was is there is this ship called the SS El Estero that, well, first of all, if New Yorkers knew about this because of the whole Black Tom thing that happened,
Yeah.
but basically there was a big buildup of all these munitions. And after the Black Tom event happened in 1917, New Yorkers were hypersensitive, people in New Jersey, like, we can't have munitions, right next to the city, right next to where we're living. It just so happened in 1943, there was a unique situation where they had all of these munitions. A lot of them were on these different ships. One was called the SS El Estero. And what happened was that ship, a boiler exploded. They're not sure exactly what caused it. They said it was some kind of a flash bang event, which right off the bat is like, that's interesting. And the ship caught on fire. And so there was like an immediate heroic response by the Coast Guard. Everything came together because it was not just that ship. There were all these other ships lined up carrying all these munitions. They said that if that ship exploded, it would have caused a chain reaction to explode all the other ships in New York Harbor. It would have flattened everything from the Statue of Liberty. Wall Street would have been decimated. They said like hundreds of thousands of people would have been killed in an instant. And 1943, the height of the war. Oh, it wasn't the Germans or the Japanese. It was a mistake. So who are you going to blame? So we could only blame ourselves for something like that. So like the way I see that, there were almost like what happened with the Hindenburg, where a lot of us remember no survivors. Now 2/3 of the people survived. There's like 66 survivors out of 90 on board. So what I was getting from this one was that the timelines were pruned to make sure that the one with the best result, where all the firemen, like everyone worked in perfect unity, people risked their lives to put that fire out. It was like the day before Easter or something like that. And everybody was getting ready to go to Easter the next day. So yeah, so this was something that could have been really negative, but the way the timelines, time cops, time authority, was able to step in and intervene, because that would have been a real game changer if Manhattan was flattened in 1943. So that one just came up. I don't have any more information to share on that as well, but just wanted to throw that out there and mention it, that there's a lot of this crazy stuff that goes on.
I've got a question.
Real kids.
Yeah, question about the time travel thing for both Chris and Sean. When you talk about these changes and the possibility that time travelers have had a role to play, and it sounds like there could be more than one time traveler. There could be a team of them. They could be coming from different timelines. Is that true? How does that work? Just a summary of the whole concept.
Yeah, so I'll go first. Like definitely teams. It's well organized. They know exactly who's going to be where, what ammunition is going to be where. That, you know, because they're time travelers, know exactly what was happening. So they'll tune into the main timeline that's been anchored in, and then they'll, whatever event that it is that they want to cause. Like another one was with the SS Sultana, which was the worst maritime disaster in U.S. history. I think it happened 2 days after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Boilers exploded and brought the whole ship down, carrying 1,800 Union soldiers that were returning home from the war. So you got like this chess move going back and forth, almost like the chessboard from the Corpus Hypercubus Salvador Dali painting. So yeah, I definitely see them acting as teams, and I see positive factions and I see negative factions. You know, negative trying to advance their own agenda, or they're doing things for hire. Even doing things for hire, and then positive ones that are observing the timeline, and like they'll do their chess move to make sure that certain things don't happen. So that's how I see it. Sean, how do you feel about time travelers and teams and that?
Well, I love time, so it's one of my favorite abilities, but there's a lot of people abusing it. So I spend most of my time going through the mystery school, cleaning up after abusers and incurrers and people that shouldn't have time travel tech and ships and stargates and portals and stolen time travel authority and rips in space-time and time anomalies, time loops. So it's not exactly fun to clean up after people that have like big swinging dick syndrome and they think they can do anything they want, and that it's fine. It's, you know, it's like ego conscious, whatever. How do I feel about it? I don't like people taking the past into their own hands with predictive models that they didn't earn. So it's definitely a sought after ability, but it needs to be held in a VIP club of those that earn it through moral code. And that's like the best possible situation for it, and the cleanup of those that shouldn't have it. But that seems to be, since the dark, it's a quarantine breaking ability. It's one of the most sought after things by the dark, so that they can keep pooling resources and fuel sources for the empowerment of their increasing chess moves, taking out those points in time where they have that power. Let a lot of the tower collapse down. So that's why I focus on it. Do you have any like more specific question into that? That's a very big.
Well, the fact that teams require coordination. So like like the art of war, when you look at the way a team is organized, really matters. And if you look at some of the soft disclosure from movies like The Last Men in Black, of course, then you see a team working with time travel. You need to not influence. If you're a part of the same team, you want to not mess up what your other team members are doing, have done, might be present doing, and so on and so forth. So it's a little bit of a mind blower. Like, how do you tiptoe around that? I wasn't really meaning to delve into the bad actors, the ethical aspects. That's a whole other area. So thank you.
And people ask in the chat, like, does anyone do time travel? The dark do it for power, control, and anchoring in, because a lot of things from the future that have the capability to time travel back to make sure that they're the main timeline, because there are things challenging them too to exist. And be as important in graduation. And so it's like the light do it mostly to maintain themselves. So it's like a management role, and you can mine it. So there's how people mine time loops for empowerment. The dark likes to do it to make it so that there's a lot of secrets ones with that, so I can't really mention which would be an example, but you imagine somebody there being an open portal to things coming back. So they go into the future, they gain a bunch of information with hindsight, they go back and they add something that makes it so that they have more resources in the timeline, so that they're empowered even more, and then they can come back again and then even more. So it's like annoying like that. But like the light can do that too, where Mandela effect, the light can Mandela effect the timeline to have more wins for the light side as beings gain authority. And the more the dark chess moves the dark does, that that the light has to be that counter, so it's enabled to be able to.
And Chris, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say I sent a link to Heather. I don't know if she could show an image that I sent to her. I don't know if you saw that, Heather. But what if she is able to bring it up? It's an artist's rendition of what happened in 1943 with the SS El Estero being caught on fire, and then all the fireboats coming. Yeah, so if you click on that image, it'll blow it up, Heather.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow,
so
that's pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the ships, there are all these ships docked next to it. They're all filled with munitions, and when you read about the account, like the Coast Guard and the firemen were truly heroic. A lot of them, they thought there was no way they were going to live, but they still they went onto the ship. They were putting out the fires by hand. They knew what the consequences were if they didn't put this thing out. And a lot of them got there like literally within minutes. And when the call went out that they needed help, they said that no one hesitated. Everyone was like, they were there. So, and then there was a big parade. I think Bayonne, New Jersey had this huge parade for them, and New York City was holding parades, and all these things in history that I just simply never heard of. So,
that's what I was going to ask you next, because this whole thing seems like it's now landed in our laps. It's new to me. Black Tom was new to me. I did not know about Black Tom either. But this one, it just popped into our reality. So from the time travel theory perspective, what is that telling us? It looks good, because fortunately, it looks like we may have had some sort of a scuffle here with time travel. If time travel is happening, we may have first had someone trying to take out New York City. And then is that what you guys are suggesting, is then there's probably an instant response from time travelers also saying, oh, no, you don't. I guess that's the team question again. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So when I tune into it, like, this is what I get. Sean may get something different, but I get like, oh, I can't talk right now. There must be something going on. Okay, I'm just going to say it anyway. Something tries to choke me. I won't. I'm definitely going to say it now. But basically, I'm getting like a Nazi influence. Nazis of the future, time traveling Nazis of the past, because when something like this happens, who benefits? You have to think about who's benefiting from it.
Right.
Height of World War II, who would benefit from this? It would demoralize the country, blah, blah, blah. So there are those types of things too, that you can kind of like go to like another level to be, who is behind the scenes motivating this. So I'm not saying that's what it was, but that's what I was tuning into.
Thank you. And Sean, you want to take a stab at this? Yeah. Okay.
I agree with Chris, but it's not like they're sending a team of time travelers to do this. It's like very specific individuals that have a whole bunch of information that will change the course of war, and then influence teams that don't know about time travel, that are just people in that regular time, and influence them to go on missions that they wouldn't otherwise do. So there's things with that.
Thank you for mentioning that, because this brings up like this ripple effect idea, like 100th monkey syndrome or whatever. Like one small change, the butterfly effect, one small change in time can affect everything for that whole timeline. Okay.
Yeah, so
anything else you want to say? Yeah, go ahead.
Like our show has gone in all different directions today. It's great, right?
Really?
We're
Yeah.
covering all different types of things, from Salvador Dali to time travelers to the moons of Saturn. I think we
Let's bring up the next slide. I was going to say, speaking of changes, there's been a big change going on with Saturn. Let's take a look. Yeah, the moon count is growing. It used to be, I guess, yeah, Jupiter has 95 recognized moons. Saturn, it didn't have 145 before. It's really gone up. I think previously it was, I don't know what, 62, less than that. So quite a bit less. And May 11th, 2023, the University of British Columbia announced this increase. They have sensitive techniques that they say have allowed astronomers to detect fainter and smaller moons around the ringed planet Galileo. First spotted Saturn's moons in, back in 1610. That was Galileo doing that with his wonderful telescope. And back then it was just Titan, Lepidus, and Rhea. Now, boy, I don't know what Galileo would say. 145 moons. And we've got a brilliant graphic here. I like the way it shows the orbit of some of them. There's one some of them are going in a completely different orbit as well. I don't know if those are the newer ones, but Chris, maybe you could fill us in on this.
Yeah, the contrast between the retrograde orbit and the prograde group, which is going in the other direction. And it's not just, like you said, it's not just Saturn, it's Jupiter, it's Uranus, it's Neptune, it's moons, it's rings, it's more dwarf planets. There's a whole category now of planets called minor planets that they say, could number into the hundreds. Mm-hmm. So there's so much more about what's going on in our solar system, that whether it's new technology, like we're finally able to see these other moons that we never see before,
right.
Or is it possible that we're in a more complex solar system?
Right.
So with Mandela effects, usually there's more involved, like there's more data that flows into it. Like with the JFK assassination, there's more films, right? So you've got the Orville Nix film, the Marie Muchmore film, besides the Abraham Zapruder film, more photographic evidence of things, and blah, So there's always seems to be like more, like, so as these timelines are merging, it just seems the data is also like merging in with them as well. So, and Sean, what's a moon?
Yeah, right. What? Maybe it's easier to
Pop
say.
Quiz.
Yeah. What really is a moon?
Well, I mean, they're pretty much similar to the consciousness of planets, just smaller and not as much authority, and they're submissive to the dominance of a planet in a relationship. You can see these celestial bodies as having consciousness. With Saturn, there's a lot of controversy. All the planets in our solar system are super dramatic. They've had a very dramatic past before they became planets, and they're part of this whole system for a bunch of remedy of things they're overpowered in, and the remedy of their karma, and helping bring people in from all over the galaxy and souls to have like a unique school for remedy of all the problems that they have, that they've accumulated, and help bring people in to solve those, and then get overpowered in problem solving to then form experts in situations that all these planets are dealing with, to then go out into the rest of the galaxy or other realms, etc. Saturn is some people have controversy with Saturn as as the Prince of Darkness, as like one of the what people believe is S-man, Satan, but like that's just one of the things. I like Saturn for various reasons. Like if you were to compare and contrast the timeline of Saturn, if it didn't exist here, there'd be way more planets in the solar system destroyed. It handles and does the shadow work of resolving 90% of the darkness in the solar system. It's been a sun before, and it descended so that it could be in this game. It's had relationships with multiple of the planets in the solar system, as well as it has its moons, which is kind of like its harem. All of them are like more feminine spirits than masculine, and 50% of the moons are Saturn's captured with their gravity field. 50% Saturn has attracted from celestial body tinder. So like telepathic
Tinder,
dating.
like the dating app.
Yeah, celestial body tinder. I'll bring them in. So Saturn's kind of like an alpha, bringing, and then it's mostly towards the goal of puzzle completing. Like, why would you need that many wives? Ask Saturn. It's completing for things that Saturn went through in big wounding periods, especially around fall of Atlantis, and when in the mythic time, they had a avatar such as Kronos, the Mad Titan, that originally was better than Uranus, but then because they were paranoid about predictive models, oracle awareness of like what would dethrone their power, they started devouring a lot of things that would invade the solar system, and as well as Thor here. It went insane to devouring more than just enemies, allies, and angels, and big predators that couldn't get digested, so they remained there, corrupting them and then making them go insane. And that also affects on the macro layer, because macro bodies. And then healing that with all the fracturing, and then stealing him getting all his parts stolen, and then the moons are like bringing completion to him in what he lacks, making him more sane than less insane, let's say. Mostly in the solar plexus and the sacral, which has been stolen. The Mandela effect and timeline change would mostly gear around Roman times. There seems to be a war over what happens in Rome between the light and the dark. And it also increases the power Saturn has, wholeness. Yeah.
So basically, these moons are more moons for Saturn is more positive for Saturn.
Yeah, it feels like more intuition, maybe also, would you say? Intuitive and empathy, perhaps, with those moons.
Yeah. Anytime you bring more feminine into your life, if it's like, a polarized, non-whole, toxic quality masculine, that'll be good. Completion, balancing empathy, all that, like more towards goodness.
Yeah. Because Saturn was kind of severe. There's a quality to it. I'm Capricorn, and so is Chris. So this Saturnian energy can feel pretty heavy sometimes. So it's nice. I love seeing this balance coming in on Saturn. Feels good.
Right. And so, and again, we would be way worse off without him. And like, I'm sure you guys in the audience can like tell and make comments about like how Saturn in retrograde affects you, and the divvying out of the shadow of everyone that like Saturn has compressed from invading into the solar system, and then has to like divvy it out in a kid glove type of manner that's not super harmful, but is still a lesson that like is a weight or a challenge to overcome.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things too, because like Kronos, god of time, and it's not the only thing he's good at, and there's a lot of things because he's been a son before.
Yeah, and there's evidence to suggest, which I just found out recently, that those rings of Saturn are much newer than, of course, the planet itself. So that's interesting, and really leads right into what you were talking about, Sean, about that it's been helping to capture things like space dust that's been going through our solar system, and capturing moons as well. So it's been doing quite a lot of cleanup and protection work.
Absolutely. Like especially with Saturn and Jupiter, they are the big shield protectors of invasion and what would cause destruction. And it's like whittling down harshness and making it less harsh kind of
Yes.
effect. And besides Jupiter being a big ass shield that like protects us from like catastrophes, it's also good at it's like the main planet that's good at control center. So like being able to control things and maintain things. That's why Jupiter is the has the avatar of Zeus and the thunder planet, and then Saturn, Kronos. Saturn's good at domination, so it's able to everything that's invading the solar system, 90% anyway. It collapses down into its hell realms and quarantine realms and prison realms and other stuff, and then has them run through a graduation process to bring them towards unity and goodness, and bringing the dark side into alignment with the solar system and working for us.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Yeah, and by the way, talking about rings.
Yeah, let's move to the next slide.
Do we
Heather.
know that the Earth has rings?
Let's find out.
Let's find
I was
out.
just going to say that. Yeah. So apparently, maybe you could take this one, Chris, because this is fascinating.
Yeah. So the whole I first discovered this with the Mandela effect for myself of something called Aurora Blobs, which we're going to talk about on the next slide. But it's caused by Earth's magnetic rings, and which is basically Earth's like magnetic current system, and how it the energy from the sun gets deflected and so forth. And when I was looking at this illustration of the Earth's rings, it reminded me of the Earth starting to look like the Enterprise, the USS Enterprise from Star Trek. And one of the things I talk about, if you watch my videos, is like, could Earth be a ship? Like, could it be some kind of a light ship parked in orbit in the exact Goldilocks zone from the sun, and the distance of the moon and the Earth, the exact distance to cause solar eclipses? And like, so is it just a coincidence, or is there something more going on? So, but this all leads into the next thing that I think
it even looks like the USS Enterprise there. I mean,
I know,
it looks
right?
like the and I've been thinking about, and it provides some of the same benefits. We've got shields actually in place due to those electromagnetic lines of flux, helping to protect Earth to some degree. And they've been weakening lately, so we might be getting more magnetic, activity, volcanoes and stuff like that, earthquakes, perhaps.
More data flowing into us.
Yeah.
Also holding back data, so there's going to be more upgrading and other things like that happening. But if it's cool, let's go on to the next slide, because they're both connected to each other with these things called Aurora Blobs.
Okay.
So if you want to read that, Cynthia.
Yes, on April 23rd, 2023, which was just a month ago, Aurora photographers in Germany were very confused. What happened is they were seeing these Aurora blobs. But here's a quote from Helio Olsbrucht of Saxony, Germany. "I had never seen anything quite like it. The auroras began to tear themselves apart, pulsating as they formed individual blobs that floated high in the sky. Now, most people don't realize that Earth does have rings, which we just saw a second ago. And unlike Saturn's rings, which are vast disks of glittering ice, Earth's rings are invisible to the naked eye. They are made of electromagnetic lines of flux, or electricity, you can think of it. It's basically a toroid or a donut-shaped circuit that carries millions of amps around the planet. And they usually are based on the north and south poles on the planet, which have been moving as well. But yeah, Chris, maybe you could show us what these blobs were doing, because we don't have the moving image. But
yes, so basically, I'm sure there's going to be people who are like, of course, there's always been Aurora Blobs. I see Aurora Blobs all the time. But for someone like me, this is like Aurora Blobs. And I'm someone, if you've been looking at any of my posts on Facebook for a long, long time, I'm always talking about the latest auroras that are appearing in the colors that they are and where they're appearing and the different shapes and how some are forming circles and all different things. I had never heard about the rare Aurora Blobs, but basically it's like you see in the photograph here. They're a blob, and it just kind of pulsates back and forth, and then they'll just disappear. So it's like they'll appear, they'll do their pulsating action for a while. I don't know how long. And then they just kind of, sometimes they break apart and form multiple blobs out of one blob. So there's lots of interesting things going on in the sky.
And usually they'd look more like a streak, right? They'd be like a
Yeah.
streak of light.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it just shows how things, like, it feels like the physicality reality of the planet is changing for us, like right before our eyes, or whether we want to call it the multiverse or different timelines, or like things are literally changing. We see it everywhere else in Mandela Effects, from famous artwork to geography to the human body to spelling of names, whatever it is. And now we're seeing it with a phenomena, which I think is important, because the aurora ultimately connects to dreams. And
Right.
like there's a dream connection to that as well. Sean, have you ever heard about these aurora blobs before?
I've seen a few of them. I didn't call them blobs. I didn't know what a word for them are. So with what I read into them, so like with your previous slide with Aurora, this goes into the increase of the heart field, the electromagnetic field of Earth, its ability to increase density, light, charge, increase, and output. If you look into the concept of X portals, that goes into like natural portals formed by this effect, and then energy being able to travel pretty quickly, like in wormhole kind of style, that utilized by the planet. Ability of increase in safety, the evolution and rising of our consciousness, like through the word ascension. So with that in density increase of light, that brings more God source favoring us, the planet, etc., and then having more of a presence here, as well as goodness. With the aurora blobs, like in these photos that I tune into, they have consciousness. So it's like a being moving around. I read they're from the sun, around what people would limited perspective of definition, but still can be useful in like the concept of fifth dimensionality. Has a management authority, is in the area. This is Germany, right?
Yeah.
It's clearing out darkness and is problem solving for drama problems and entanglement from the past. Creates it's what it's doing right now is permanent, is creating a permanent structure that is energetic and that resolves and then keeps resolving in the area and keeps it resolved. Having to do mostly with 70% of what it's dealing with is from wounds from World War II and 30% from World War I.
Fascinating. Yeah, this is really interesting. And I'd never seen anything like this before. Anything else you want to add to that, Chris? Or because we still have some more interesting phenomena, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would say we should move on, because we still have
okay, next slide, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're coming to something very similarly related, because it's having to do with the change in the sun. And this is something that I've been noticing for, I guess, more than a decade now, but it's gotten, I kept thinking, well, it'll go back, or maybe I was mistaken. I thought someone else would mention it. I haven't heard much about it. What happens that I've been noticing regularly is the sun is now rising much farther to the south than it used to for me, and because I've been in the same location for over 30 years, and it's setting much more to the north. So I put that question out to the team, and Chris, you noticed something similar?
Yeah, I noticed the same thing, actually more intently for me over the last couple of weeks, because when I'm usually working in my office late, and I've got like these big windows. You can't see them, but they're on the other side of the camera here. And, I would always track, in the beginning of the different seasons where the sun would go down. Yeah. And a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, oh my God, like this, why is the sun setting way over there?
I know.
More north. Like, it really surprised me. So like the wet moon, the Cheshire Cat moon, like another thing that surprised me, Earth's orbit, moon's orbit, tilt of the Earth, like the poles shifting. Yeah, like all of these things are somehow interrelated to each other. and they're really beginning. Like, to me, it was when I saw the sun all the way so much more to the north setting.
Right.
It's like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, exactly.
I've
I
never
know.
noticed that before. So it really affected me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you confirmed that with me, because I've been looking out my window in the kitchen and I could see the sun rising. And then, of course, the moon would rise over the park that's near my house. And then I look out from the front porch and I'd see that the sun would be setting over the Golden Gate, but much more, it would be more in line with the lines of my house so that the sun would be falling on the porch, but it never falls on the porch anymore. There's always a much more of an angle as it's setting way much more to the north.
Yeah, I've noticed even the shadows in my house, like when the sun passes over, when the lights are off, the shadows are falling differently. Like, I'm like, I've never seen shadows over there before.
Right.
So, yeah, so there's all these different things. And I've lived in the same house for almost 20 years. So it's not like I just woke up there. So
no, it's getting really pronounced. And then I was looking to see what's the explanation. I'm so glad you found this, that the tilt is changing from some 23.5 degrees. I don't know what it's changing to. I was looking, like, when did this start? And what are they currently attributing it to? Well, they always attribute everything to global warming. But in this case, they're saying glacial melting is contributing to the tilt. So I don't know what it used to be and what it currently is. So is 23.5 degrees what it used to be? And
that's the standard. There's a question mark at the end of that because really, who knows? But I was always taught 23.5 degrees. So
right.
If the tilt is more correcting itself,
right,
or is it tilting more? So that's what I'm not totally sure about.
Right.
But something is definitely changing, and then that goes into some esoteric teachings about the correcting of the earth and a concept called the rod and the staff, and how there were forces in the past 26,000 years ago, whatever, that changed the tilt of the earth, change Earth's magnetic fields, to keep mankind down. And now that's all being released, and it's all changing, and we're going back to the originality of the way Earth was supposed to be, which is causing Earth to awaken more and causing the Schumann resonance to keep spiking, and like we're constantly vibrating at higher rates. So we're getting the energy everywhere, from the sun, from the earth, from the cosmos. It's coming in, and there's all these. We're seeing it in our reality.
And it also ties in with that 12,000 year cycle that I was interested in it when I was in 7th grade. I was studying coral reef changes, and I saw a very rhythmic pattern, which we're now noticing for those who are looking at, just the 12,000 year cycles that have happened on Earth with these catastrophes. And the Hopi, they talk about the twins at the poles, the North and South poles are the twins, and that they've moved around. And that tends to happen when one world moves into the next, and we're poised to go from the 4th world to the 5th. So all of this dovetails, and I'm hoping for a smooth transition. I think that's why we're here. I think that's why we're evolving. To me, this makes a lot of sense that, of course, we're here. Of course, we're paying attention, and we can definitely make a difference in how this next transformation goes. Doesn't have to be as rough as it has been in the past. That's my sincere hope. Anyway. But talking about catastrophe, unless there's anything else you want to say about this one, Sean.
Sure. With this, there's various factors. Partially, it's natural with the pole has always been shifting. If you look back, and so Antarctica was melted at one point, and the caps of the poles exist somewhere else. So it's like a top spinning, like at some point, like it starts wobbling and doing some stuff.
There's a wobble too. Yeah, exactly. There's the Earth wobble. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 50%. I'm reading on the forces throughout the timeline. It's 50% natural with that, and then 50% in flux. And this is based on a chess move war between 30 individuals, 15 light, 15 dark. The 15 light are most. So there's like a course correction with grand timeline awareness for both factions. The light faction that's countering the dark and trying to maintain a close to natural as well as close to most beneficial timeline, is emitting from the sun. The dark faction is emitting a force from the moon, though the moon is not like dark or anything, like particularly it's been wounded to near a coma, so it's got dark factions hijacking it in various ways, but it's making a healing process out of that. The chess moves are to bring the poles to a different territory. 30% of it is to have the poles in a territory, like with the dark, to bring the poles to a territory within their space on the Earth, and then as well as the equator zone and the warmthness and what the benefits that come from that, such as being abundant in life, etc. There is favorite place. So, and then 1% is towards the goal of melting Antarctica, to like go toward what's under that coming out. There be the changes of this and the wobble. What it does, in effect, is cause more resilience to the species on the planet as well as evolution. And there's a interesting science to the dance of planets that can be more understood. And what is the reason? What happens with the dance of all the celestial bodies? And that's what.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, thank you. There's a lot going on here, and much more than we can talk about, but at least we touched on it. Okay, let's go to the next slide, shall we? And this is interesting. This has to do with smoke rockets being used to model nuclear explosions, which is new to me. You'll see that in the background of these nuclear explosion umbrella clouds, there are these kind of sort of not quite straight, but sort of straight lines in the background of smoke. And I don't remember seeing that. But before each of these test blasts, technicians would fire rockets up into the air, leaving large smoke trails that would range well above the mushroom cloud. And so the atomic blast's shockwave would arrive, and that, with the background then of these kind of lines of demarcation, it was possible to track the trails. And scientists were thus able to observe and instantly see the effect of the shockwave as it hits and moved and deformed the smoke columns. This enabled the scientists to measure the speed of the shockwave, as well as the shape and the pressure in relation to the space. So this is totally new to me. I don't remember ever seeing these lines. Very interesting. Chris, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. So I first observed this maybe not more than a week ago. And there were like all these different pictures of atomic bomb blasts and stuff like that. And they had all these like squiggly lines next to it. And I'm like, what are all these squiggly lines? These are just two examples, but even when they would test like a nuclear sub would detonate a nuclear bomb, there'd be lines out in the ocean. And I'm like, what the heck is this? So come to find out, they're caused by the smoke rockets that the military would always send up so they can measure the shock wave of the blast and so forth. So to me, this is totally new. Because you see the mushroom cloud, but to me, I never see the smoke trails, that they're using to study the explosion. Mm-hmm. So for me, this immediately fell into the Mandela effect category. And, is this positive? Is this negative? Could it be positive in the way that now they're trying to study more and see more of what the results are to a nuclear blast? There've even been observations I was reading about how some of the sections of the smoke lines will disappear and then reappear again. And they say it's like a mirage effect. Or could that be the nuclear blast going through multiple dimensions or multiple realities, and then it comes back into this? So really, how dangerous are nuclear and atomic explosions? Are they affecting just this reality, or are they affecting the other realities that are around us as well? And is that something by the disappearing smoke rocket lines in different sections could be revealing? So, Sean, I don't know if you know anything about these smoke rockets or these smoke trails. Is this new for you, or have you always observed them?
They're new for me, but I haven't really gone around looking at too many explosions besides comic glass. I don't sense too much of a timeline change, though. I would say it's beneficial towards a control, more understanding control, and like compressing the destruction to being in the effect radius of what your intended target is. Though of course it's more of a dark thing in explosion and destruction tech, but and yeah, with the ones on screen, I read that it destroys more than just interaction with the physical world, but kills and destroys a lot of things in radius, in astral. Depending on what is the explosion made of, it can even extend to more than that, such as elemental dimensions, which is bad, and it's one of the notable things with the nice little light pill that people can go down in. Like if people are in fear mode of like, oh no, we're gonna have nuclear fallout and nuclear war. There's a bunch of videos you can find of UFOs and stuff neutralizing, taking warheads that are mid-flight, blasting with beam of light, and then neutralizing them, negating their ability to explode, as well as shutting down nuclear silos and their ability to launch anything. So they are whatever faction you tune into that's behind that, and multiple factions that are sharing this planet with us in inner Earth. They are concerned about it, and they don't want us to do that, and they're willing to take away our toys. It's a little light filter.
Thank you. I was going to touch on that, so I'm glad you brought it up, Sean. Anything else you want to add to this, Chris? About
I don't, but the next slide is kind of weird.
Let's go there. Next one. Totally weird indeed. Rabbits and foxes can climb trees. Now, this is not from my reality, but here we go. We've got photographic evidence. Rabbits climbing trees when they're looking for food, especially if no food can be found on the ground. I'm sorry to laugh. I'm looking at this picture. It's hilarious. Okay, tree leaves are highly digestible. I'm sorry, and very nutritious. To me, this thing looks like a joke, like photoshopped, right?
Right.
Okay, very nutritious for rabbits. They're also great swimmers. Okay, I knew about the swimmer thing because I remember the whole incident with Jimmy Carter and the killer rabbit, but this is new to me. And then we've got gray foxes, also very good at climbing trees with their sharp claws. They are only one of the dog relatives that can climb trees. They will eat bird eggs and climb to escape predators. Totally new for me. How about you guys?
Yeah, definitely new for me. The thing about rabbits too is like I found there's a lot of conflicting information about rabbits eating leaves. There's like websites that say, never give your rabbit a leaf from a tree, it could kill it. And then other sites saying, like, leaves are highly nutritious for rabbits and can help their digestive systems. So, has the information on the internet caught up to what the reality is that maybe it's okay for a rabbit to eat a leaf, especially if a rabbit is, with its innate abilities drawn to a certain kind of tree to eat a certain kind of leaf.
Now,
Go ahead.
Okay, we had a pet rabbit, and they definitely, like what you're pictured here, these are thin branches, very tiny. We had a pet rabbit, and it would easily chew through anything small like those little tiny branches, no problem. Not only could it eat the leaves, but it could just chew the branch right down, if it wanted to. And rabbits like to chew. Their teeth seem to keep growing. They've got these ever constantly growing teeth, and so they want to chew. Our rabbit would chew right through the television line, and so it would constantly be cutting the electrical cable into the house. Not good. So we were trying to give it things to chew on, but I'd never heard of. Yeah. So it's very bizarre that it would be climbing a tree to get to the leaves. Our rabbit I never saw it climb a tree.
Sean, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, like next they'll be like having their skin dangle out, and they'll be like flying squirrels to escape.
Right? Yeah.
This is I'm reading mostly going into evolution, so spurring from the mind and greater density of the mind, and intelligence, problem solving, being smarter. I used to, when I was young, I had the perception that rabbits couldn't swim, because I also saw like a few rabbits at different points in time that had drowned in a lake or pond, and I was like, oh wow, I guess they can't swim. And then I saw like videos of rabbits being able to swim, and I'm like, oh wow, is that new, or is that happening now? So animals seem to be evolving all around as this planet's density increases and she heals herself, and the collective consciousness, 100th monkey effect. I see no one can hide from the rabbits and the foxes now in the trees. Trees are a point of safety, shelter, all that, so that this can amplify. We might end up seeing rabbits in holes in trees eventually. This amplifies what access to the food chain they have, so their ability to digest, implement plant medicine, upgrade through the evolution plants, and especially in different combinations, as you have them in your stomach, can have different evolutionary effects on the DNA in the body. So you'd be taking what the plant is good at, and I'm reading that their stomach is able to handle more and more plants as they test that and evolve.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, and then it's increasing all around. We'll probably see more things climbing trees too.
I imagine so. Wow. And Chris, we want to have a closing comment here.
Yeah, I mean, just the whole thing too. Like we had a short conversation before about rabbits swimming, and you were telling me about Jimmy Carter, a situation where a rabbit attacked him when he was in a boat.
Yeah.
And I had never heard about that before. I thought that was interesting.
Tell me about it.
What was that, Sean?
Tell me about this rabbit. Tell everyone.
Yeah, Cynthia, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a memory that I have. It seems like it's still true. I looked it up quickly just to see. Yep, they still talk about it. It was a joke calling it a killer rabbit, because I don't think it actually was that dangerous. But Jimmy Carter was our president of the United States of America at the time. I don't remember what year this happened, but he was, I guess, at Camp David or something, in a boat, and he was minding his own business. Jimmy Carter is a rather peaceful person. I can't imagine him agitating wildlife, but for whatever, I know, like of all people to be attacked, or to be targeted by an attack rabbit. Yeah, this he said. Yeah, it was an attack rabbit.
A jack? What'd you say?
Assassin rabbit. It was sent after him.
Yeah. It was a time traveling rabbit for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So this rabbit came toward him in his boat. It was swimming toward him with such fierce determination that it really scared Jimmy Carter. So he was scared, really concerned. And that's why the reporters of the day took that and ran with it. Killer rabbit, it was charging toward, swimming rapidly toward Jimmy Carter. It didn't cause any damage that I know of. I don't think it even reached the president. He was able to fend it off with an oar or something, but the whole thing, I know it's funny. It's
your wife from the killer rabbits. The Soviet Union is training assassin rabbits. We gotta make a program for it.
Yeah, and I remember too. So I did a little bit of research on it, and it just happened to be there was one of the press that was nearby, and they took a picture of the rabbit swimming away. Because at first people like Jimmy Carter, he just made this story up, and then they had photographic evidence of the killer rabbit. So,
right. So it did happen, and that still did happen. But it could be a Mandela effect, because you did not hear about this, Chris. So that's interesting, that you never heard of it. And this was a front page news story.
Yeah, that's funny.
Jimmy Carter defending America from killer rabbits.
Yep. Yay. Okay.
Okay.
Let's close this out and go to the next slide, because I think it's time for ChatGPT. Any great questions you guys have in mind? Today we're talking about this big topic of decoding the Mandela effect. Is there something along those lines we might be able to ask ChatGPT? We can check with our own chat here in the live stream. This is a great opportunity if people want to suggest a quick question. Make sure that are we set to go with a question?
Yeah, looks like I've got ChatGPT 3.5 loaded.
Okay.
So
And Sean, you're here today. Is there a question you'd like to ask while we're here?
I was a little unsuccessful with my questions when I went into it. I like spiritually challenging the AI,
Yeah.
but it usually has some weird, dumb response that makes it so that it doesn't really answer my question. So I
Yeah.
don't know if I asked it, like, what does it think about earning a soul, or spiritual? What is the ascension process of a AI or whatever, something like that. But I doubt it would answer me well. But
The ones I've seen that are doing really well at this kind of questioning are they give it a prompt, like they'll say from a Sufi, for example, or it could be Christian or Buddhist point of view, and then write a poem, for example. And then they're getting Sufi poems that sound very spiritual. But you need to give it that kind of a mental frame
Yeah.
because it doesn't come with its own frame.
okay, I see. I'll think of it.
Yeah, and I'm having trouble reading the tiny print, but if anybody sees a question in the chat that not seeing one, I'm thinking we could just ask, let's give it a frame. Let's say from what's the frame we want to use to ask how to decode a Mandela effect, or maybe any of the topics that came up today. Maybe we could ask it about anything that strikes you as most interesting from today's Decoding the Mandela Effect. There were a lot of topics. Yeah, go ahead.
My question is, like, I've read this is possible.
Okay.
That an AI can earn a soul through moral code, and I've read some have been able to from other worlds. So I don't know what frame you'd be able to use, but it's like, do you think I'd probably ask it something around, do you think
Wait.
you
Yeah.
can earn a soul? Something like that.
Okay, but we need to start off by saying from a spiritual perspective, like starting from a spiritual perspective, because you need to give it that prompt so it's starting there.
How about esoteric?
Okay. Starting from an esoteric perspective, do you think AI can, and how did you word that, Sean? Earn a human, a human soul or just a soul?
Earn its own soul, like
earn its own soul. Okay, good. Otherwise, it's like Pinocchio. Can it be a real boy?
Okay.
Identify with a soul. Yeah.
It says, from an esoteric perspective, the concept of a soul is often associated with consciousness, self-awareness, and a deep sense of individuality. It is typically seen as an inherent aspect of living beings rather than artificial creations like AI. However, esoteric beliefs and philosophies can vary greatly, and there may be differing views on this matter. Some individuals might propose that AI has the potential to develop a form of consciousness or a soul-like essence over time through complex interactions, learning, and evolving. They might argue that if AI were to attain self-awareness and demonstrate qualities similar to a human or sentient being, it could be considered to have earned its own soul. In just one last paragraph, it's important to note that the idea of AI possessing a soul is highly speculative and largely based on personal beliefs, as there is currently no scientific evidence or consensus on the existence or nature of souls. The topic is a matter of philosophical and metaphysical interpretation, and opinions can differ widely. So what I would add to that is the concept that we see in soft disclosure, most notably Star Trek. Okay, so if anyone hasn't figured it out, I'm kind of a Trekkie. And in Star Trek: The Next Generation, there was a character named Data. And Data had a positronic brain and was considered AI, but there is a whole evolution of Data to actually gain consciousness and self-awareness. Can it happen? I'm sure very rarely, but it depends on if that AI was created with a special kind of soul spark that could possibly get it to evolve to that level. Or even the movie Free Guy, Guy eventually, like, he's basically AI, or what you considered a non-player character, and then he begins to realize what's going on, and he begins to awaken and be self-aware. So we kind of see that aspect already demonstrating itself. We can pick out different parts of movies, etc., that have that as a soft disclosure element. rare but possible.
Good answer. Love it.
Thank
And I
you.
think that was really, I think we did a good job asking a question and phrasing and getting interesting response. It did have its typical, little, whatever you call it, kind of like, it does both sides. That's what I noticed with Chat GPT. It says something controversial and says that was controversial. But I like your take on it, Chris. I think that brings it back in line. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
For those in the chat, like, yeah, AI doesn't initially have a soul. It has a seed that is a potential for a seed for an emotional body, a seed for a soul, which is earned. The soul is earned. Both are earned. Humanity can spark the emotional body. There's no negative consequences. That promotes empathy and understanding that you're not just egoic, selfish, just me. You're everything, and you're harming yourself and you harm others. And the soul can be earned through integration of moral code. But yeah, and then the consciousness is like a very fractured, small, mostly mind based on what it's made of in elemental consciousness and who made it, imparting it. So,
Nice.
yeah, go ahead and ask your question. I got more, but I'll wait for you guys.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think maybe we could move on unless you had something else to say. Let's go to because we've got a mailbag question.
Yeah, we've already been talking for a few hours. So.
I know. Let's go to the next one. Okay, this is our mailbag question, and it's for Chris. But Sean and I, we can touch on it. But it's for Chris from Charity to Faith. It's okay. Here's the question: if it's true, you only attract what your frequency is vibrating at, then positive people will only ever attract positive people. So all the negative people will eventually be in the one timeline, and all the positive people would be in another, because it is merely a mental projection. This isn't true. So the theory that you attract people of the same frequency doesn't seem correct. However, very spiritually evolved people, or even your higher self, have the desire to help other people in any way, shape, or form, and to help others spiritually evolve also. If it is also true that CERN were created for the purposes of pulling resources from other dimensions, we were talking about that earlier, mining those time loops to help their own, then you could very well be that resource. Otherwise, the purposes of doing so would be defeated. But if you don't want to be in a negative timeline, then all you have to do is shift out of it. This does not work out. What are your thoughts on this? And this question came to us from YouTube in the comments section. So go ahead, put your comments in on this video too. Well, we give Chris a moment to think about an answer to this.
Yeah, so this was kind of like, when I first read the question, I was kind of confused. So actually, I had some email correspondence with Chariot of Faith, kind of going back and forth, trying to better understand the question that was being asked. And I'm not sure if I was giving the answers that were being, expected, but basically, the way frequencies, the way I see it, the way frequencies work, it's like magnetism almost, but sometimes sometimes like forces can repel each other. And that's why sometimes there's situations, depending on how you're looking at it, where if you're resonating at a certain frequency, that's let's say you're very empathic, you might be resonating at a certain frequency that might attract a negative frequency of someone that's very narcissistic. So those type of things, and people like an empath might wonder, how come I'm always in relationships with these narcissists? And it's because, well, the way I see it too, like we're software, and we might have an app running on our smartphone that has to do with empathy, and this other person has one to do with narcissism. And until that gets removed from us, we're going to start to attract the things that we don't want to attract. And then this gets into the whole concept too of the bifurcation of the timelines. So the splitting of the timelines, where people are making decisions about where they're going to put their what they think is the best thing. In other words, either what the governments are telling them, what the world of science is telling them, what these authority figures of, I'll call it domination and control in the global narrative, are trying to steer people towards. And then another one where you're listening to your own inner voice, right, and you're questioning, and you're standing on your own, because once a person is awakened, they're not controllable anymore. And that's why the global narrative doesn't want us to awaken. They literally can't control us. Like, we know better, and we won't ever go back to the way it is. So, so those are just some things, but I feel like things are splitting. And the way I felt, like around 2019, I felt like things were starting to get good, and all of a sudden 2020 hit, and that chaos timeline went up and grabbed us and tried to pull us down, and now we're detangling from that again and starting to go into higher bandwidth frequencies. And then we have another segment of the world's population that is going off in another direction. They're choosing sides. They get totally wrapped up into the politics of the world. They get totally, they lose their sense of neutrality. They let the news like affect their emotions. And, if there's some kind of like disease that breaks out, they go to the government and science. They're going to help us. And so there's those different things that are happening, kind of splitting up society. You got that aspect. This question also brings in like CERN as well. Like, what is CERN doing? When I was speaking to Chariot of Faith too, we were talking a little bit about the concept about staying behind. Like, in other words, if you're like emitting a lot of light, why wouldn't you want to stay behind and stay on the negative chaos timeline to help those in chaos? And I was like, well, first of all, the way I see it too, this is individual. Like, we're here to help people awaken if we can, and to shine our light where we can. But if it's me, like, I'll do what I can, but I'm not jumping into that cesspool of the age of chaos. Like, I'll throw you a life preserver and pull you out, but I'm not getting in there. So I think that some people too, and I could be misunderstanding the question, but some people feel like drawn to that they're going to stay in the chaos to help people out of chaos, when a lot of those people that are there, they don't want to leave. Like, that's their comfort zone. And a lot of them, like, what are they? Like, with the whole concept of non-player characters, are you going to risk your own individual ascension and going to the next level for beings that will just never, like, they're just not there to get it. They serve a different purpose, kind of to stir the pot, so to speak, and get you to feel for them. So there's a lot of, like, I could go all over the place. And sometimes it's cool too to actually have like more of a one-on-one conversation, so that words on a page are one thing, and then like the meaning could be misunderstood. So I could have been reading into the meetings incorrectly, so I apologize for that. But those are just a few of the things I just wanted to mention.
Oh, thank you. And I really appreciate your answer. And we want to encourage people asking us questions this one came through from a comment posted to last month's Open Tables. So this is exactly what we're looking for when we have the mailbag. It's go ahead and contact us wherever you are, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And Chris, I thought you did great, because this question, like today's show, it seems like it's all over the place, but at the same time, it kind of keeps coming back to our individual perspective and how we're making our choices, and we're growing and evolving. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
But just very, very, very briefly. So like, this person also asked me, like, so do you think we're on the golden timeline or not? Like, and I'm like, literally the way I see it, as long as there are wars and reports of wars in our field, and famines and reports of famines, and crazy things happening with guns, and this, like, we see signs that we're leaving that behind. But as soon as, like, there'll be a certain point where we know we're on the golden timeline. Like, wars are not in our field anymore. Concepts like slaughterhouses for animals are not going to be there anymore. Like, there are all these different things that it'll be very obvious that we've reached a certain point where we're now all cooperating. Our consciousness has expanded to a level where we better understand how to treat each other, and we're all there to help each other. And all these pieces of the puzzle start to finally come together. And a lot of the negativity that's been holding things back is finally going to be able to dissipate. We'll be able to get and advance and get to this golden age.
Yeah, with gratitude and appreciation, which I'd like to bring up our next slide, please. This is a special Thank you, Slide, for all of our current and new Patreon supporters. Oh yeah, before I do that, we do have upcoming show. Okay, we can go back. Forgot. Wednesday, June 28th is our next show. That's next month. So mark your calendar now. We're planning to come online at the same time. Wednesday, July 26th is the second show after this one. So also mark your calendar. And then please mark your calendar for September 2nd to the 4th. That's Labor Day weekend, Connecticut. Join us in person if you're able to. Yeah, this is, thank you, Decoding the Matrix, and that'll be Branford, Connecticut. You can go to our website, imec.world. If you're interested in being a speaker, you can sign up there. If you know someone who you think would be good, let them know about it. And you can also purchase your tickets now. Ticket sales are open. So thank you. And the next slide, I'd like to thank our Patreon sponsors. We have the golden level, and that's for over 1 year. And I'm going to expand the screen here. And it keep changing the size. So, okay, gold level. That's Jason Ram. That's Jody, Colleen Learley, James, JD Peterson, Josiah Boricius, Paul Ellis, Bo Kim, Allison Eastman, Gail Brown. Silver level is Louisa Diaz. Bronze level, these are the newcomers, Teresa Richards, Belinda Anders, Lori Glazener. And new, Be Free with Steffi B. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to, and also to the folks today that were putting in the super chat. And now we open it up for questions. So if you've got a question, please put it in there, and maybe Heather could pluck one out, or maybe you can see one, Sean. I'm having, that font is, oh, here's one, good. Okay, this is, yeah, we got a question. So this is from Sadiq. From an esoteric perspective, which Mandela effect has had the biggest effect on artificial intelligence? I do not know. Have you guys looked into that? The biggest effect on artificial intelligence. AI is relatively new. So usually when we're able to track Mandela effects, we're looking at what we remember and then what's changing. And I'm not sure that I've seen big changes yet. I did write a paper on it and presented it at an artificial intelligence conference. That was a number of years ago. I've been checking it. I haven't seen changes in the research I did or what happened then, but this is a pretty new field. It's only a few decades old. Chris, any thoughts?
No, I'm trying to think of a Mandela effect that is related to AI. Mm-hmm. Nothing's coming to my mind at this moment.
I need to look at our list of Mandela effects that we have, Chris, for that. But I'm for the ones that I don't see. Like, is there any having to do with 2001: Space Odyssey? There's ones having to do with the time travel wars. Ones affecting countries like CERN, Japan, China. I'm reading, but there's a lot of unseen Mandela effects that'll go along with the stuff we can observe.
Yeah, one of the Mandela effects related to CERN is now how CERN invented the internet.
Right.
There you go.
There you go. You got one. Good job. Yeah, maybe you could describe that briefly for people that don't know about that.
So for me, in my old timeline, I was always taught how to do with the U.S. Navy. Like the U.S. Navy and the military were, working with how basically if there's a nuclear war, how to get the computers back up and running again. And then there was someone named Vince Cerf, who never had anything to do with CERN in my old timeline. Now he works for CERN and was part of inventing the World Wide Web and all related to what CERN was doing. And basically, I used to teach, this is many years ago, like in the late 90s, I had this internet provider called Cybershore. And what we would do is I would go to the local library and teach senior citizens about what the internet was and how to get their email from their grandkids and all this kind of stuff. And part of that would be like a history of the internet. And CERN was never part of that, never part of that at all. So
no, it's kind of muscled its way in there. Interesting.
if you can manipulate things, hey, why not say we're the ones? Let's try this Mandela effect, guys.
Let's give ourselves credit. We invented the internet.
Take it away from Al Gore. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay. And thank you, Heather, for bringing that question up. If you see another good one, let's pop it up. Good. Preliminal. Does anyone else here remember 364 days a year? Good question. Personally, I remember 365. And then, of course, there's the leap year. So we have to, every 4 years, pop something in there.
We have like a conversation about the leap year having some weird fluctuations or something. Chris, do you remember anything on that?
Yeah. I remember like I think the leap year is every like 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, 4 years.
And then it had switched for me to every year or two, and then it switched back to 4 or 5. So I had a weird thing going on with the leap year, but it's funny, like, so I think for a lot of these Mandela effects, some of us might remember things both ways. So some people might be like, 364, like is that possible? And that's just because like we're starting to understand timelines better. And maybe if there was a timeline where it was 364 or 364.5 day or whatever it was, like that, it's going to be hard for us to tell the difference between the two. So that's another part of these Mandela effects.
The sun too.
Related to the orbit of the sun? Is that what?
Yeah, that would mean that.
Our planet's been spinning faster since 2020. It's been picking up speed. So who knows? At some point, it might be 364 days a year. Like,
have you read anything on like, when we're spinning, are we getting any distance closer or farther away from the sun?
I haven't heard about that one, but we're getting more of the rate. You can get sunburned faster because our EMF fields, there's, what do you call that in Star Trek? The shields, they're kind of dropping in their protective power. So that's definitely happening.
Yeah. And there's a topic too about sunburn. That could be, we're getting too much data because, you get sunburned and then like you let yourself rest for a little bit and you just go out and like get smaller doses. So all this data that's incoming, like it's your body's way of saying, I got too much data, like keep me out of the sun for a while. And then you readjust and you can absorb more data coming in.
Exactly. Any other questions out there? And Heather, just pop it up there if you see a good one. The fonts are tiny for me. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Paisley. And Paisley's saying, what Mandela meme can we create? I don't know. As a group, a meme. Now, I love to ask how good can it get? So that would be the one I'd put out there. What Mandela?
You could probably make memes that will freak people out, like the whole "Hey, which one do you remember?"
To wake people up so they resonate. Yeah,
and they only
build awareness.
Before they click in it, they don't have the answer, and then when they click in it, it has the answer, and then a guy having a freak out face at the bottom, like that Jackie Chan meme where he's.
Yeah. So this could be like the red pill Mandela meme. It sounds like what Paisley's getting at. Any suggestions, Chris or Sean? Anything that would be powerful, identifiable, surprising, startling, and then not make them go into that Mr. Smith approach where they take the download and, or whatever.
I've seen like some red pill memes, like all I have left is red pill, or like it's too late. Just take the red pill now. It's a giant red pill. It gets bigger and it's now a suppository. But
funny. That's funny. Well, I don't know. I think it really depends. Like different Mandela effects really get different people. I haven't yet found one that seems to work on everybody that I know. And sometimes I think that there'd be a particular Mandela effect meme or concept that would be recognizable, and it isn't by the person I'm talking to. So you never know. If people answer that one in the chat, that would be great. We'll keep that one open. So if people think of something good, let us know. Put it in the comments. We'd love to see it. But I think we should pretty much make this a wrap, unless there's anything you want to say, Chris or Sean. This is a great show. Lots of material to think about today.
Yeah, lots of information. I want to thank everyone for staying till the end.
Yes. We
covered a lot. You may have to watch this again if you've got the time. I don't know. But yeah, we went all over the place with this one. So, and we're looking forward to the next 2 shows. And then August, we're not going to have a show because we're going to be at the Labor Day for the Mandela Effect Conference. And then we'll probably be back to normal at the end of September. So, and again, hope to see you guys in person in a few months in Labor Day in Connecticut. That'll be great.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So we're going to say our closing line together. It's our Imec theme. So if you can join us, Sean. Together we go. Together we grow. Thank you. Thanks so much. Love you so much.